What's going on, guys? Welcome to All Access Magic. My name is Ryan Edwards. This guy over here is
Blaze Sarah. Welcome everybody to the show. This is an episode we've been anticipating so long. We are so excited for this one and
yeah.
can't wait to introduce our guest.
I mean, when we started the podcast like a year and a half ago or something, I said we got to have this guy on, but we got to wait. We can't have him on right away because it's too good. So I'm pumped that we're finally having him on. So I think we should just bring him on. But
Without further ado, we have the incomparable, the man,
the myth,
the legend,
Mr. Chris,
the man,
the myth,
the legend,
the real legend,
Kenner.
What's
Good
going
Lord,
on,
how do you
sir?
live to that shit?
That's you got to bring
How's
it
it going
now. It's
on?
gonna be, man. We're pumped to have you on. It's gonna
Well,
be
it's
a
fun to
good
be.
night.
It's good to be on. It's
Yeah.
hard to get on these things sometimes. Like right now, like we're in the middle of the show. What time is it? 7:15. The show just started at the MGM. I didn't go in tonight. I'm just doing this. So, I'm just so with the show. It's just hard to get here. It's hard to do anything. But
Yeah.
So how has
What?
that evolved over time? Where obviously you don't need to be there for every single show, but like how many days a week are you coming in and being there behind the scenes of Copperfield's show?
well, I used to go in 6 days a week. I'm trying to go in less, just to have a little bit more time, because I can do quite a bit of my work, because a lot of my work is business related. So I can do a lot of that on the phone, and I can do a lot of that in person, but in person not having to be at show. So let's say that I have issues to deal with in the mornings, which I do almost every morning, or I have meetings to go to, just stuff to do. More mornings are full anyway. So let's say I work till 9 o'clock till 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock. Then I'll go home, chill out, and then go back, to the theater. So that gets to be a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of hours. So at some point, I just rather kind of be home a little bit. It's tough.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
tough. It's a tough scenario. And David, he does 15 shows a week. When we're not dark, we go dark for 10 weeks of the year. We're about to take a dark week. But 10 weeks of the year we're dark, and the rest of the time it's 7 days a week. So that's really crazy, when you think about it.
It's absolutely nuts. When I was
15
performing
shows. So it's 2 on Fridays, or 3 on Saturdays, and 2 every other day.
Yeah, I mean he's
Is
definitely.
anybody else doing more shows than that in Vegas in the Magic sphere at all? Like I don't think so.
No, I think Blue Man
outworking everybody.
Group. I think Blue Man Group does a similar shows, but they have different Blue Men. It's not like they have different guys doing it. They have different troops, so it's not like it's 3 guys that are just sitting there going, "I got to put this fucking blue shit on again."
You mean David hasn't figured out the prestige, the cloning trick yet?
We're trying.
Yeah,
We're working on it. We got a few
Nice.
mutant clones backstage.
Yeah.
It's like
Blue was just a
an extra
failed
arm.
clone. Came out.
Right, exactly. The alien is a fail. That's freaking
Yes, failed attempt number
alien
1.
just failed the clone.
Just Copperfield with a melted face. Now
Really
I think
short.
we actually should backtrack a little bit, because we immediately jumped into talking about your work schedule behind the scenes with David Copperfield.
Exactly.
But we did get a question from
question
Matthew Henley
came
that
up.
said, "What your job with Copperfield?" so people need some context for those that obviously have been under a rock and don't know who the incredible Chris Kenner is. But for a brief summation of what you do, how would you describe it?
Well, that is I don't know. It's a little, here, it's one of these things where I've been doing this for 30 years. So over 30 years, in any, not even job, any friendship, relationship, whatever you do that you do for a long, long, long time, if you add a little bitty things at a time to the responsibility, to your, it adds up, and you can get used to a big thing slowly. Like if I were to say, here's what I do, I can't even describe it. It's like, we are constantly working on the show. That's one thing. So then we've also got marketing and business, ticketing. You got to make sure that we settle every night. You know, if the MG, hey, everybody could make a mistake. So there could be financial mistakes. There could be on either direction. Let's say the MGM overpays us. I don't want that either, because they're going to figure it out eventually. And if I catch it and they underpay us, and then and no one figures it out, that we lose the money. So it's just it's a never ending thing. I have certain things that I do every morning. I do them no matter what. And then there's things throughout the day. I'm constantly looking at how's ticket sales for the next, like here, right now is a great example of shitty because, you know, we've got COVID.
Yeah.
So there's all this, people are canceling their reservations to Las Vegas. They're not wanting to go out in public. You know, locals aren't wanting to go anywhere because they don't want to be out. So it's hard. So you're fighting for that. How do I amortize as much as I can over here? You know, do I have to switch some advertising? Do I make a deal with casino? It's just, you really have to think about it. And it's not just you put a billboard, which is what a lot of people think. Magicians think that you just throw a billboard up and you go, you know, if you build it, they will come. Well, that's not true. You know, even if you're David Copperfield, it's to work, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, it's the days of very few artists are like, you know, Taylor Swift goes to cities, you know, they sell that show out online in 40 seconds. But, you know, those are few and far between. You know, that kind of stuff just doesn't happen. So it's a work because we're here, we're competing against everything. And when I say everything, I don't just mean shows. One of our biggest competitions, believe it or not, is food and beverage. Because okay, let's say they come in, they get 2 tickets at $150. We'll call it at $150 each, $140 each, whatever. $300 for 2 tickets. So that's there. Now they're okay. I'm going to pay $300 for the tickets for a show, whether it's our show, any show, versus hey, we can go to this celebrity chef restaurant that I can't go into my small town or in whatever country they live in. That's a choice. Yeah. Not just what show to go to. It's should I go to do a super good restaurant that's an experience that's will cost around the same money, or do I do a show? So, you know, some people will do both, but that might take up the whole evening. I mean, really the whole evening, because a good restaurant with an experience is longer than an hour. You know, you're there a while. So there's so much stuff you're competing against that people don't really realize, and it's a task, man. It's a task.
Well, I think the thing too is a lot of people don't realize, like, four-walling in Vegas, right? Most people think that every single show in Vegas is like hired by the hotel and given millions of dollars. But we see most acts come into Vegas millionaires and leave broke, right?
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand, you know, like we have a very specific good deal at the MGM. You know, we're I guess you'd call us a four-wall, but we don't weigh our rent. It's not really rent. It's an interesting scenario that we have. But at the same time, you know, we basically get majority of our ticket cost. So that's, you know, it's like if you go to the hotel, you know, there's service fees on top of things, and those service fees go to certain things. So if we have might be a service fee on top of the ticket, which would, you know, which we don't participate in. You know, that would be, say, rent, even though it's not affecting us at all. So it's a good scenario the way we have it built up. And we also, you know, we're grandfathered in, and I don't want to say grandfathered in because I think we would have probably come up with this deal anyway. But, you know, we're from the show. It's like a show. So when we go on the road, you know, we obviously, some buildings are just like this. It's like there's a percentage on top of the ticket plus a very small amount of rent. You go to a venue, and they do that they like that. If they loved us coming when we were traveling in the United States or wherever, because we sold very, very well. So, you know, you go to these cities, they know, okay, wow, David Copperfield's coming. The house, it's between a 2,500 and 5,000 seat house. We go someplace for a night or 2 nights, we're going to do very well, especially if we don't go there very often. So it's really easy for us to make a deal. But you see these other shows come in town, and again, I say this all the time. You know, they really think they just slap a billboard up or buy a couple of trucks and they drive around, and that's going to be advertising. Yeah, just because people might know you in the magic community doesn't mean they know you. You know, here Lance Burton did a bunch of television specials, and I love Lance. This is nothing against Lance, by the way. If anyone thinks that, this is just, you know, until Lance kind of did a television special or so he was kind of Vegas famous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not necessarily worldwide famous. Now that still was a good thing. Perfect timing for Lance. There weren't as many shows. There wasn't as much stuff. There weren't hockey teams and 5,000 seat venues with residencies that, just eating up the people that are in town. It was like a perfect storm for him, when he came. And that was when you could be kind of Danny Gans, Vegas famous. Nobody knew who Danny Gans was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of there's a couple of people like that. And Danny Gans, huge following. And he went through it a certain way. When Melinda was here, she was a first lady of Magic, so that was a draw, I guess. And her mom Bonnie was a very good promoter. So that she was very smart. She did a bunch of really, really smart things. I honestly think she might have helped change the town. She did a lot of stuff for understanding how to deal with taxi drivers and how to get people to word of mouth as opposed to just there's a billboard. She was really good at utilizing her own skills, and she was great. Bonnie was a very smart person. She helped Melinda a lot. Her mom did. And then David Sachs, her brother, obviously has a billion shows here now.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different animal compared to what you were talking about before. The idea of if Taylor Swift goes into a city that and is touring, then they can instantly sell out those shows. But if you compare that to you have to be in that city every single night or 15 shows in a week, how do you consistently keep marketing to that same city and make sure that you're constantly selling tickets? Because it's like obviously there's new tourists that are always coming in and out of Vegas, which is a great element, but the marketing in Vegas seems really unique in that like you're trying to just be in people's faces as much as possible.
Yeah,
it's like there's
everywhere.
billboards everywhere. I mean, you drive down the strip in Vegas and you're seeing Copperfield's face all around you, but it's like you're subliminally putting, or not so subliminally, but putting that thought in people's heads very forcefully and going like, make sure that you check this out versus any of the other things you could be doing tonight.
I occasionally I'll do my own survey. So I'll go out and ask people. I can look at the box office and see where they bought their ticket. If they bought it on Ticketmaster, they bought it from our box office. I know what time they bought it, everything. So I might handpick a few tables to go ask, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. Where'd you guys hear about us? Because I know if they bought the ticket a month ago, I'm kind of curious why they bought it.
Yeah.
Was it an advertising they saw on Facebook? Was it the fact that they're big David Copperfield fans? What is it? And I know if they bought it the day before or they bought it the day of, and the time. So if they bought it the day before, I know that they thought about coming to the show more than likely. Day of could have been an instant from advertising that was local. So you kind of walk, you ask them, hey, oh yeah, did you see that? Was it the billboard? Where'd you see it? The truck driving around, or was it the airport? And their answers are always pretty interesting. And I utilize that, and you can take that information and know if a convention in town, this is a better thing to deal with. If this is going on, this is great. Chinese New Year is coming. Let's pop up more advertising here. You kind of get it. And then you also know what months to pull back advertising because there's so many people in town and they're the right demographic for us that will sell stronger anyway. So that, you know what I mean? Why waste if you have the built-in audience at that, let's say of the 42 weeks a year that we're on, 10 of them are just dead no-brainers. I mean, no-brainer. And they're all run together. Like a couple of them are run together. They're not just a week here, a week here, a week here. You can change your thought process and save a little money on advertising that time. It's just why waste your money? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
But we're also on, again, we're talking about magicians. Other than a couple of shows that are here doing magic, we're kind of on a bit bigger level than most people think. And that's where when they start to think about it for what they do versus what we do or what goes on, it's a difficult animal to deal with. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but there's a lot going on to selling tickets and to
Yeah, which is so
Just
interesting because
understanding
I didn't
who you
realize
are.
that was so much of your role, because I really thought that so much of you, I originally thought that, oh, Chris Kenner is director and do a lot of the creative, and but you're also involved in like
Oh yeah.
data aggregation and producing and making sure that there are
Well, I'm
butts
the
and
producer. I
seats and
mean,
like running the whole show.
yeah, that's the biggest part of my job. And originally I was hired to write jokes, work on the tricks, and deal with stuff. And
Mhm.
then obviously that's the easiest part. The creative part for the magic is not hard. David is very visionary, so he'll say, I want to do this, and then we just try to figure it out. And when I say we, it's not like David goes over in the corner and we figure something out. It's
Yeah.
David, because he's who he is and he's where he is because he has this vision, and he doesn't want the vision to be anything less than the vision that he saw if he doesn't have to. So before most magicians, let's say that they say, I want to do this. Then the road to get to there is like this, and they get right here and it's not bad. And they stay there and they forget that was their fucking vision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they stop where it's okay. And that's not a bad thing either. And some that the okay is still not terrible, but they didn't go like David will be like, nope, 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 nope. It's very rare that I see him compromise. Very rare. He really tries to push himself. And the other thing that's good is for a long, I mentioned this just recently. I don't think I ever talked about this before. I think it was on Chris Ramsey's thing. David used to call me Dr. No, because I was like, I didn't like a lot of stuff. Like I'm if you know me at all, the one thing about me is I'm a horrible person to ask what my opinion is of anything, because I'll tell you. Most people don't, especially in our little magic community. People want to hear, somebody sends you something to look at. They tell you they want to hear that it's good. They don't want to hear that, hey, does it work? I just saw the contest, part of the contest for the SAM National. And it's depressing at the same time that it's fun to watch, and it's you're inspired a little by the fact that people are just still trying, and they're still wanting to do, be a magician and have an act. But when I watch a person and they have to, then they're standing there and they're doing a manip act, and then they step their foot to the side, or they put their arm put their arm out like this to, there's no finesse to it. It's like they should they're doing a dance move essentially just by stepping sideways, and they look like they're clumsy on stage. It just doesn't feel right. And that just sticks out to me like a sore thumb. And I got off on a tangent there. I don't know how I got on that one.
I don't think it's necessarily that tangential. I mean, but yeah, it's like the thing is that when people are doing a performance, a lot of magicians don't have any external voice there, because they're doing the show, starring in it, directing themselves, and they don't have that outside perspective to realize, oh, like this looks really awkward. You are doing this as a series of moves, not one choreographed movement, and I think it's usually good to have like a perspective that's outside of magic, even like to have a director that's not even in magic or knows a bit about it, but is in some other form of entertainment, because they'll probably look at it just as, how entertaining is this, not like how cool is it methodologically.
Well, here, this is an interesting thing that happened that I didn't even think about. So me and David went to the Magic Castle, and Chloe, David's wife, she was there with us, and we went to watch a magician, and he's good. He's pretty good. So I already knew him. I know him. We all know him. Not telling you who it is. So
that was the first question that we were going to ask after your answer was, who is a magician? Come on, let's let us know.
Well, no, let me tell you the story first.
Okay.
So we watch him, and I was very, as a magician, David and I looked at each thing he did and was like, that's really good. Okay, that's really good. We compartmentalized his act. So we looked at the first thing, and it's all card magic, pretty much. We looked at the first part, and that's pretty cool. Next thing, that's great. Next thing, oh my gosh, that's pretty good. Next thing, Oh, that's great. Next thing, that's great. Now, afterwards, Chloe says something interesting. She didn't see it like that. She's an audience member, not a magician. She saw the whole thing as one thing. Now, I obviously know this from doing with the David show. That's the way we think. But being giddy little magicians watching other magicians, kind of we watch it like this. And I think that's the way, especially close-up guys, do their show. It's this trick, and then, oh, this one's good, and then this one's good, and this one's good. So she said, he was really good. He was really good. But after a while, I did notice that he just turns over 2 cards as one. And that's how that stuff worked.
Yeah.
So if he would have done one of those, it would have destroyed her. There were 10 of them. She eventually saw it, and it answered a lot of questions. So that was a very, and when we talk about, I'm not a huge double lift fan because I think it's a very overused and horribly done move, even though it's it's a very easy thing to do. I'm always looking for alternatives for the double lift. So I'm always. So, but that story, I think that story is interesting about how magicians going to view themselves. And I get that question all the time. People, for my long time, people will send me clips of them performing, and there's 2 types. Let's break it down to 3 things. I'll put parlor and illusions into one, because that's parlor, non-comedy, mentalism, illusion into one, close up into another, and then comedy into the third. So I get 2 types of tapes that people want my opinion of, and the one I never get are people that are they're trying to do comedy for real, like doing comedy magic for real. Because if they're really going to a comedy club and they're really trying, they do not need me, because the audience will let them know. It's legitimately 100%. A laugh. If you're doing just a straight magic show, people go out and they'll say this. I've seen some terrible magicians finish a show, walk off stage, and then say this: I killed tonight. And people may have loved the show and loved everything, but more than likely, if they did good stuff, the tricks killed.
Yeah.
He didn't. There aren't that many David Williamsons, No,
100%.
So there's all the good guys I know, like I watch Ben Seibin. I think Ben, almost take the stuff away, and he's a performer. There aren't a lot of guys. It's the tricks that people like. And that's, it's an eye-opening kind of humbling thing to think about. But if you think about it that way, you become 1,000 times better of a performer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%.
Here, if you do an illusion with a shadow box and the shadow box opens up and you're an illusionist that no one's ever heard of, you come out and you stand up and take a bow, people are applauding for the illusion. They never heard of you before, except for the fact your name might be on the bill, but they don't know who you are or anything about you or anything about you personally. So they're applauding for the effect. So the minute that you can take and get them to applaud, also endear for yourself, you are really winning. And that's when you get hired all the time. And that's when everyone loves you and everyone knows you. Like there's a lot of guys out there that do okay magic, that have a great story behind them. And, good or bad, that really works. We've witnessed it. We've witnessed it on AGT. We've witnessed it on many things where the story sold the show, not magic. So you walked in and they were like, oh my God, because they just watched this big thing about the person. They either, I don't necessarily say feel sorry for, but they have a feeling of wanting them to win. So they already like them and they want them to succeed because of whatever trauma they had in their life or whatever they went through, or just what a super great, star-spangled awesome person they are. So yeah, there you go. I'll tell you what I would tell people. I read a story. I used to send people this article every once in a while because people ask me, again, they ask me to look at their stuff. And I start my thing with, I'm not the guy to ask, because if you just want me to tell you you're great, I might not do that. And I used to give actual advice. And then I stopped that and started just asking questions. Instead of the advice, I would just say, hey, when you do this, do people notice it? Have you ever been caught doing this? Do you know, is there a reason that you wear wrinkled jackets? You know, I just asked like logical, simple questions. And I read this article called I Won't Read Your Fucking Script. And it's the article essentially is this guy, script writer, punches up scripts, helps, you know, Hollywood people guys send him stuff, he punches it up and does work. And people ask him to read his scripts all the time. Read scripts all the time. And he'll say no a lot because he doesn't have the time, doesn't have the energy. It's hard to look at it and then give advice. So this guy was bugging him. And he says, again, I'm paraphrasing this. So if you find this article, which it's easy to find, I might be a little off, but you'll get the idea. How I interpret it anyway. So guy sends him a script. He reads it finally, and he writes real criticism to the kid. He writes, and he literally says in the article, I think I took more time reading this and then writing the criticism to this guy than I do punching up a script, than I have on scripts that I've been given to rewrite. Spent more time. So he gives the guy the thing, and the guy was like, oh, wow, thanks. Oh, okay. Because he just wanted to hear, oh my God, that's great. It'll be, you got the next Jason Bourne series, you know, whatever the hell he was. And at that moment, the guy's like, you know, I'm not going to read your fucking script, because it's really frustrating. And it is frustrating to watch people and then tell them, try to help them, and then they just justify their actions. It's really great. It's really interesting.
And note to self: never ask Chris.
No, but on a side note, anything I ask or give a criticism to, I don't think I'm necessarily right. So I don't say it like, you know, those guys I told them they should have done that, but they didn't, so they're a bunch of dummies. It's just my opinion, and it doesn't matter good or wrong, right or wrong. If a person wants to believe that their stuff is good, that's awesome. You know, that's how some people get good. So it's just an opinion, and it's not, you know, right or wrong. It's just an opinion.
No, for sure. But I remember, like, back when I was really young, you know, all of us wanted to be David Copperfield. I was like, I want to be David Copperfield. I need to do big illusions and stuff. And I found an illusionist that lived close by me. And, you know, I went and saw a show, and I thought it was great. And I talked to him after and said, would you mentor me? And I told him, okay, I saved up all this money. I want to buy a couple of illusions. And the first thing he said to me was, don't buy an illusion. He said, because it lasts 30 seconds on stage, max. Like, he said, go to the magic shop and buy the thing that you hate the most and make that the best piece in your show. And I did. I went to the magic shop with him and bought something that I thought I hated and turned it into a really cool act. And I was like, okay, this is great. And he said, because your whole show, if you have like six, you know, obviously with David's show, there's the illusions are huge and storylined and everything else. But if you're just traveling doing small shows, you know, it was going to be like a sub trunk or something like that. And he was like, that's great, but your sub trunk's going to last like such a short amount of time. It's who you are on stage and how you present yourself to the audience, and, you know, and everything that's in between is so important. And I think a lot of people, like you said, segment themselves and go this trick and this trick and this trick and this trick, instead of creating a whole show that's, you know, altogether good. But
people should do open mic night, you know, and do open mic night. It's funny you said it. I was going to say,
how did you know?
Triple screen is still in your show.
Yeah, 100%.
So people should go to open mic night. You know, open mic night's a fucking eye opener, because go there without a trick. Actually, honestly, if you've never done it, the first time you go, do what you think is your best trick that has entertainment value, just so you can actually stand there and do it and get through it once. Yep. And then try to write some jokes and just go up there. Because the hardest thing, when I started to do magic for a living, my sort of going from here to here to here to here was, I did close-up magic for magicians, basically, because I met magicians, I did magic conventions, I went to magic meetings. So my goal was to do hard hardcore, crazy sleight of hand. This is 40 years ago or so, more than that, 45 years ago. I'm trying to do this hardcore sleight of hand and fool my magic friends. So at that point, I get to where I'm proficient at that. And I think I was a little cocky little fucker. I went to work at Illusions Restaurant. You know, I've written a book already at this point. I had done a lecture or two as a kid. I was like one of the young whippersnapper guys. And I thought I knew what I was doing. So I got there and I do my first table at this place. And I'm like, oh, I did okay. And again, I'm not the guy that says I killed. I'm like, I did okay. That's all right. And earlier in the day, I had met one of the other magicians. His name was Dan Dagger. And Dan did what he did his set for me. And it was like journeyman stuff. I was like, that's... yeah, really? That's what you're going to do? And in my head, I'm like, wait till he sees what I do. You know, I'm and I'm watching him. He's like pulling a rock out of his shoe, and he does like a all backs routine. It's super fast, and it's done very well because he's done it a million times. But it didn't try to make the moves different. And so I just like, okay, whatever, in my head. So then I did my set for him, what I was going to do, close up. And he kind of just stared at me like almost. I asked him many times later, and he's like, "No, I wasn't thinking that." I'm sure he was thinking, "Wait till this guy, there's no, ha 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 ha." He has no idea.
Yeah.
There's another one bites the dust that comes in here, thinks they know what they're doing. So I did my thing. Then this guy's Dan goes to do a table, and fucking crowd's going crazy. The audience, I'm looking, it's like four top. I'm like, the hell, is that his family? What is he doing? A different stuff? I'm letting to look over, and he comes back and he's got like a 20 stuff in his pocket, and he's this is in the 80s, and so that's like a very good tip in the 80s. So he goes, he's like, yeah, what the fuck? So I do my next thing and next table, and again, goes okay, it's fine. And I'm doing hardcore shit that I used to do for magicians. Yeah, and always had a personality. So I was never afraid to perform or try to be a little goofy. I didn't try to do it that time. I wasn't trying to be a comic or comedian, but I always had a personality. So, at least I was a tiny bit entertaining. Well, I'll call it tiny. So the Dan does another table, and they're like rolling. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Can I watch you? I'm going to watch. Do you mind if I watch you do one table? He does the table, does the same thing. And then at that moment, I realized, okay, they love him. He could do nothing. When he pulls a rock out of his shoe, I swear to God, if you were even paying any attention, you'd just see the whole thing. But no one ever saw anything because they were laughing so hard and having so much fun. Yeah. And that changed my life. That I went home that night and I was like, okay, I gotta rethink this. I redid. I thought, and then I started thinking about how do they see me? How do they perceive me? They perceive me through a window and a box, but how do I control that? Because he did it very well, just naturally. And then I moved from there, and in that same place, there was a place to do stand-up. So I started doing stand-up, and I realized I like this way more. So all the close-up that I'd spent all my life on and trying to be technically great, I realized I'd rather be funny. And then as I do this and do magic tricks and be funny, then I realized I really don't want to do magic tricks. I'd rather just be funny.
Yeah.
So I started doing open mic nights and going to wherever I could and to just try to be funny. And anytime I had a chance to tell a story or do a bit, I would do that. I would tell the story or do a bit. And that became, that. And then when I met David, I started working for David. I didn't really want to because I'm like, I kind of want to perform. I want to do something else. I wanted to move into the movie business and somehow be involved at some level. And and David said, I'll let you spot in the show. And I'm like, So for about 15 years, and I stopped because I wanted to stop. I could still do it if I wanted, I guess. I just, I did a little close up at first. First thing I did something very comfortable with a camera. I did close up stuff because we were doing flying in the show and David needed to do a full costume change. So we'd play a movie in the middle of the show. So I'd say at about 70% of the venues, I would go out, depending on if I was too busy that day or there was whatever the reason. I would go out and I would do a little set. I would do my set in the center of the show. And then I went from the close up, about 6 months into that, I'm like, okay, I'm switching to stand up, did stand up, that's 2,000 to 5,000 people hundreds of shows a year. You know, it was quite a learning experience. But now I really I'd rather not perform magic tricks. I'd rather just tell stories, talk. It's much more satisfying to me personally. But, you know, I still, you know, I got these damn things in my hand all the time and I still play. And I still go to magic conventions. I love to be fooled. I love to watch these young kids do this amazing stuff. And there's some good ones out there, man, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's interesting what you were getting at earlier, and the differences between magicians and comedians. And what's interesting is that magicians tend to forget that we have everything at our disposal that comedians have, and we have the tricks on top of that. It's not just the tricks when we walk out on stage. We have our whole persona. We have everything coming out of our mouth, and a lot of times we just call it patter, but it's like, that's what the audience is hearing. That it's not just some throwaway, you know, garbage, like, you know, just to get into the next trick. All the transitions between everything are still part of the show. And when you can go to a magic shop and buy something off the shelf and immediately get these gigantic reactions from people, there's this kind of hyper like ego inflation immediately. Whereas like comedians, if someone's a comedian, they're like, oh, I'm pretty funny, I'm going to go to this, you know, comedy club and I'm going to get on stage. They'll bomb over and over and over. And it's through bombing that they learn to get good. Whereas we don't necessarily have that. I think a lot of magicians don't have the experience of actually bombing in front of an audience, because you're doing something that they've never seen before that is supposed to come off impossible, as long as you don't completely fuck it up, you know? So it's like, yeah, that's a pretty amazing that, you know, that you found yourself more comfortable in the end without the tricks as a crutch, when at the beginning you were relying on them to be
100%.
able to be on stage. Yeah.
100% when I started, even though I was trying to be goofy and thinking I was, and I don't necessarily, I can't tell if I was or not, but I thinking I was trying to be entertaining. But in all reality, it was exactly what you said. The tricks were that was it. The trick was the focus. Yeah. And I probably, now, as I started to perform more and more and more, I didn't understand how to make the trick to focus. Yeah, like example is what I watch magicians do all the time, and I think this is a very common mistake. Mistake is a harsh word, but it's a common thing. Let's say that you're doing a trick. We'll call it just one effect. You have an effect. A lot of times they think, we'll call it a card trick, so it's easy to describe. At the end, when you turn the card over, that's the end. That's the big moment when you reveal that that's the ace of clubs or whatever. But if you look at the whole thing and you realize that there's the most important part of that whole little 2 minutes or 3 minutes is a joke you tell in the middle, because it's the funniest reaction in the whole thing. So that's the best part of that section. So you have to take that as your peak and then work around the peak and realize because if you fuck it up, the peak's it's going to ruin the ending, you know, or make it nothing. And if you, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. If you really know that way you can so harshly take that peak joke or moment and realize and pitch it to the audience as hard as you can, throw it in their face. You could throw the ending off. You could throw it away. You know, oh yeah, by the way, that's the two of clubs. See, got it. Well, whatever. Next, you know, if you know that the other part was more important, as opposed to you do this other part and then you're so excited to turn the card over and just take away from that. Because if you take, I once had a comedian describe this to me, that he had A, B, and C jokes. A's were hits all the time, and they were high applause and laughter. And B's were okay. You know, they were the next level down, where it always worked, but it didn't always get a big laugh, but it would always get something. And C's were hit or miss. So if you could take as many C's out as you can, it makes the other ones peak higher. So just because the joke, just because you say something doesn't mean, and it sort of works sometimes, unless it's ingrained into your personality and you just love the joke so much or the bit, then you do it no matter what. Like I've done stuff that no one would laugh at except for like 3 people because it's so eclectic or so strange of a joke but I'm doing it for me, and that is what gave me personality. So if you understand that, that's different. If you are just saying stuff to say it because you heard somebody else say it, or let me see your hand. I mean, the clean one. I mean, at some point, just take that out. If it's embarrassing on one point, because who would want to do that joke? But at the same time, if you take it out, it didn't fucking change the effect or anything about it.
100%.
It'll make the next things that are really funny more important, and they'll come faster because you didn't waste your breath. But it's hard I don't know. It's hard to teach that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Or even explain it. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw a question.
I'm probably too passionate. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm probably too passionate.
No, it's okay. We got like 800 questions come in, but I saw one that I know a ton of people have been thinking about forever, and I'm going to ask you something beyond the question. And it was from Matthew. He said, "Is David thinking of doing one last world tour?" So that question first, but then I have a follow-up question, because I remember David came to Hamilton when I was a kid, and it was when you guys were making the 13 people disappear over the audience. And I remember I was like a wrestling fan when I was like a little kid, and so I made a sign, because everybody back when you were a kid going to wrestling shows would make a sign. And I remember David actually
saved that sign right here. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, David actually stopped the show and laughed at me, because I had this sign that said "Pick me, please," before he threw out the balls, because I didn't know how he was going to pick the people. So partway through, I hold up the sign and I'm like, "Yeah, pick me, please." And then he also, so later on in the show, stage crew came and said, "Can you move that sign, put it under your seat?" And David had come back from an island and ended up sitting right beside me. And I was like, this is so crazy. And then, appearing and boom, and everything. It was nuts. But I remember talking to someone that was setting up a tour, and they said that you came up with the locations to go to for the tours, because they said, I know at that time you guys didn't play like Toronto. You'd play Hamilton, because Toronto is a huge city where there's like you said, like the Toronto Maple Leafs are playing, or the Toronto Blue Jays are playing and stuff, right? Correct. So there's all those people going to those events as well. And so you'd play a town that still seats, the theater there seats like 3,000 people or something.
Which theater? Which venue?
It's in Hamilton.
Hamilton.
I forget what
Hamilton's
it is.
An arena. Hamilton was
there's the arena, but there's a place right across from the arena. It was
Performing
I'm
Arts
trying
Center?
to remember what it's called. I think it's the Hamilton Performing Arts or something like that. I forget what it's called now, but that's where I saw the show. And I mean, Blaine played there a few years ago as well. And I think it was maybe Aussie, when I was talking to him, said Kenner came up with the whole tour schedule of where to go to find these places like Hamilton that's, huge theaters, but there's, the stuff like the Toronto Maple Leafs are not playing. They're an hour and a half away. And so when Copperfield comes, it's like you said, tickets sell out in like minutes, right? Because it's like, you got to get tickets.
We do Canada. Canada's a huge market for us. So yeah, we would definitely sell those seats with very little advertising. And that's part of that too, is you have to know, if you advertise we're advertising enough to let people know how to buy tickets. And back then there was no internet as much. We were probably talking about around 90s.
Yeah. So, actually, I'm going to step away from the camera. I think I still have this in my office.
Oh, cool.
From David's show back then. Let me see.
So while he's doing that, the routes that we take, we always pay attention to what's going on in that city. Like, is it a college city? Is there a basketball game? Are they on spring break? You have to know everything, because a college city you'll advertise different than a non-college city. And I was the sort of the final word to what the tour would be. I had to make sure we could make the drives. I had to make sure I approved everything, because I'm really kind of at the end of the day, I'm putting my name on the fact that we can get there and that we'll be able to get the show up, because we've had some catastrophes along the way, and then been put in situations where it's like, should we cancel the show because a truck turned over? Should we cancel the show because we're stuck in snow? We were supposed to be there at 8 a.m. and it's noon.
Yeah, that's always the trouble in Canada.
Bees in your head. Yeah, you have to have plan Bs in your head. So yeah, the routing and designing of the tours were all done in collaboration. But I have always been, since I have been in charge of that stuff, which has been quite a while. In foreign tours, I always had to approve the schedule. I would look at the drive, and someone would like help and try to say, and it's a lot when you look at the schedule. We might bounce around the map. You always would get this question. You're in Chicago. Why don't you go to Gary, Indiana next? Why did you go to Florida and then up to Boston? What they don't realize is that if we went from Gary to Chicago at that time, it wouldn't have worked, and the venue wasn't even available. So it's about a very bunch of so many factors. Is the venue available? Is it big enough? Can we sit there for 2 days on the weekend? And what's the city that we can do on the way there that's going to be a one-nighter? And how big is the venue? I have to know everything. I have to know how big's the venue, what's the load in, what's the load out, what's going to be, how does it take, how long does it take? If it's a smaller city where the price point might have to be a lower ticket price because it's not a big city, how much revenue are we going to make from that city? We would take a city and we would do a small venue almost as a loss, not to sit still. And I wouldn't say loss. When I say loss, I mean we're just not going to make what we want. We never do anything as an actual loss, but it's we would do it making less money than we would want instead of sitting still for a day or two on our way to a market where we're going to make millions of dollars in 2 or 3 days. So it's this whole process that you really have to look at. And in foreign countries, it was about drives and drive times. And now you're talking about venues that I only have seen pictures of, and venues where I don't know how good the people that are going to help load in are. It's a foreign country. We're bringing some of our own people to help load. It's really complicated. But once you get used to it, you just do it. It's one of those things where, like I said at the beginning, you keep adding these little tiny things on. I can do it all. But if I were to tell someone, here's my responsibility, my day to day, and if everything is going smoothly, and there's nothing, and it's a easy couple of weeks in a row, it might not look like I do much. People might, it's not that tough. But the minute anything happens, are we going to do something else? We go anywhere else? That's where all the knowledge comes, and that's where all the history comes, and that's where I have a pretty good memory, except when it comes to like playing cards. But at the same time, I couldn't do a mem deck if my life depended on it. But I can remember every venue, what the load-in is, the name of the steward, whether it was a good union or not a union. You just have to kind of you remember because you have to. That's more like it, honestly. And that's
which sounds already kind of overwhelming. And then back to the original question, like I'm sure that the idea of trying to plan something that's already that logistically complicated, especially something that's as grandiose a scale as Copperfield's show, with the current craziness of the world and COVID and everything, it's just, I'm sure that you guys have no current plans for any kind of tour, especially since you just relaunched in Vegas recently. So like,
right.
But is there any thought about like in the future,
Yes, we stopped in 2009. We sort of stood still, and we just been in Vegas since 2009. And every so often, we kind of comes up. We miss touring, and then we hate it at the same time. When we were in it, when you're in it and you're deep in it, sometimes you're like, okay, this is really horrible. Like this is hard and it's horrible, and the people are bad, and you'll have 3 good venues in a row and then 5 bad ones, and you're like, oh, this is just so hard. Food's no good, and it's just you never know. Here, I'll give you an example of just this happened, and we were in Sarajevo, and this is just like just one weird thing. So we've got a bunch of people. We've got in catering, we don't like people to smoke in catering. Now this was probably early mid 2000s. This particular event at this time this happened, early 2000s. I want to say mid, and it's hard enough to keep people in Europe from not smoking to work for us. So we have literally, you can't smoke in catering, and that seems like an easy rule, but man, is it hard to enforce.
Yeah.
So we're in Sarajevo, and it wasn't the people that work for us that I was worried about, or the stagehands or the local stagehands. The people cooking the food were all smoking, and so I don't go and deal with the issue unless it becomes the bigger problem, and I'm the end all result. So there's no one higher than David, and other than David coming in himself. So I'm like, you just talk to him, tell me what the deal is. I'm sure you can get him to stop. In my head, I'm thinking this should be no problem. So they come back. No, they're not going to stop. Not going to stop. Well, have the local promoter go. They speak the language. They know these people. I guess they've used this catering before. Just go, have them go tell them we can't have them smoke.
Yeah.
So they come back and he says, I can't. They're going to smoke. So I'm like, let me just go talk to them. So I go talk to them. Like this lady, and she's like putting the food out and giving people food, and cigarettes hanging out of her mouth. And I say, hey, ma'am, we have a pretty strict Bob, Chris. I know you don't know me, but yeah, I'm kind of responsible for all this stuff, and we're the ones paying you guys. So it'd be great if you guys just couldn't smoke, at least during dinner, like maybe at least while you're serving the food during dinner. So she looks at me and says, I saw my sister die in front of me. That guy's whole family died. He's got a bullet wound. She's just telling me all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, oh, thank you. No problem. Continue smoking.
Yeah. Go ahead. Smoke all you want.
How do you deal with that at some point? But that's the kind of stuff you just never know what's going to come up.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, you've got the same team all the time when you're working in Vegas. You know that things are going to go relatively smoothly unless something catastrophic happens. But like with the tour, you're constantly with new crews all the time, and you have to deal with whatever their restrictions are, or if people are just not feeling up for it, and they have no personal investment in your show, in making sure that it goes great.
For sure.
So yeah, that's tough. We've got so many questions that have come in. Yeah,
I did find it. Look at that. From the theater. I can see if it says.
It won't say the theater.
No, I was just going to see if it was the exact year that.
That was probably there for 5 or 6 years. That program.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just going to see, but it doesn't say.
That's late '90s, early 2000s. I looked at the first photo, that orange one I know who shot that picture. Those were shot in Germany. Those pictures.
It's a gorgeous photos. Like so many. I mean, it's just a really awesome book of like just crazy. I mean, iconic, right? Like.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, show that picture to Homer. He'll start shaking.
Yeah. So here,
let's just say grass stain to him.
Well, saying about that, here's a question: is because there's a person on Instagram called Copperfield History, and I've been wondering for a while who this is. Who is this, Chris? Because they have pictures of stuff that is nuts.
Okay, well, he has stuff we don't have.
Yeah, that's what I'm always like. How the hell does this person have these photos?
Pesci. His name's Eric, but he goes by Pesci. Yeah. He kind of looks like Joe Pesci at some point, I guess, in Joe Pesci's life. I mean, Joe Pesci's like really old now, but so Pesci's a super nice guy. He's a head carpenter / production guy / rigger. He's everything you could possibly imagine, stagehand and production wise, and he's very smart. And he is the biggest Copperfield collector I've ever seen. And I've been asking him, I'm like, what on earth what makes you want to get up, find all this stuff? And he says, now it's the hunt. It's the hunt. And he contacts like everyone he finds out who's worked for David, looks up every single thing, finds them, asks them if they have anything of David's. He's constantly on the look. He's got eBay stuff. His collection is amazing. And we give him stuff and trade him stuff sometimes.
Nice. Yeah, sometimes he'll post a photo and I'm like how? And so I was thinking, I was like, okay, maybe this is like, you or
No,
Homer,
no,
and it's like,
God, no.
oh, this is just like a little side thing we're doing for fun, or someone that worked that with you
I don't have
guys,
that kind
because
of
I was like,
energy.
it's got to be somebody,
I don't
but
have that kind of energy, and that would not be fun for me.
that's
Well,
awesome.
speaking of super fans, we were gonna do it earlier. We should just do a quick shout out just to thank our
Yeah,
Patreon
yeah.
members. I'll just run down the list really quick. I just wanted to thank you so much to Ben Jones, Leonard, Michaela Carpenter, Drew P, Denny Corby, Pavel, Garvin Smith, Christopher Gerard, Rob Burns, and there's one more person that I'm missing from my list, but thank you so much for
To that person, that one person that's not there.
yeah. Oh no, that person was actually no, that was Leo.
Oh, it's
So,
Leah.
so thank you guys for supporting and making this show possible. We also have exciting news later on with some new sponsorships that we have going on. But we had some more questions, and it ties into what we were talking about. Colin McNamara wanted to know, what have you learned about managing a team through the years? What's more or less important than you'd have thought?
Well, one thing I've learned is that not everybody's the same, and you can't show your own cards. In other words, you can't let, like, if you've got 30 employees. So if I have 30 employees that work for us, and a couple of them I just don't like, you can't let them know that, because it just becomes you can. Well, this is the opposite of asking me what you think of your trick, because I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just try to it's being fair, and what's fair is difficult, because what's fair for me and what's fair for David and then what's fair for that person are all three different things. So you got to find the happy ground. Well, I think the most important thing, one of them, well, not the most, but a big thing with employees is, everybody is different. Some people, you got to toss them extra couple bucks here and there. Some of them need massively patted on the back. Some of them, you give them tough love. That's what they need. That's what they want. That's what gets them to go. You got to kind of bark at them a little and tell them, get your ass up and get over there and do that. Where if you said that to one of the other people, you yelled at me. To wimps. Sorry. It's like you have to kind of figure that out. And then a lot of things that I didn't understand were the balance of treating the audience with respect and making them do what you want them to do before the show, almost. If during the show, and how the ushers treat them, what time you start the show, if you're late or the thing that the people that complain are the strangest things. And then sometimes the things that people will tell you they loved and they were thankful for, from the point of view of anything, it could be anything. I can't believe how clean that the stage is. I've never, it could be anything that people will latch onto and have to find you and tell you. So being surprised I'm always surprised. Never not surprised. I'm not surprised anymore by anything. I just not. So I'm not sure if I really answered the question. But
that last sentence, you said you're never not surprised, and then you said I'm never surprised by anything because I'm always surprised.
Yeah, that was a surprising sentence.
Just gonna leave it at that, everybody.
Yeah, because I knew as I said that, I'm like, I didn't answer this question anyway. Yeah, I didn't answer this fucking question anyway.
This was a new riddle for everybody. If you can figure out what this sentence meant,
not to be Dr. No 2.0, but that was the sentence. Was no.
Yeah, that's a no.
You're right.
There you go.
I was like, maybe I misheard it, but okay. So
no, you heard it right. I fumbled the ball.
Here's a question for you, actually from Colin as well. Colin said, what weak trick or plot do you have a soft spot for? So I think he means so let me ask you this. I'll kind of go off his. Do you have a routine that Copperfield has done in the past that is your favorite of all time? Like one that you're like, maybe that you guys don't do anymore that you're like, I wish we still did that. Like that was awesome.
No, I don't look at life like that. I don't have favorites. I'm not a hey, that's my favorite movie, that's my favorite trick, that's my favorite thing. So I don't know. That's a tough question for me. I mean, have a soft spot for is a good question because I don't necessarily love this trick, and then I'll start with why. It's not that I don't love the trick. I personally, as a magician, if I ever did anything, I am terrified, petrified, beyond terrified of anything with invisible threads at all. But Rose is
not
really
gonna like this week's trick we're reviewing. That
yeah. You wait till you are review later.
I love them when people do them and they do them right. I'm like, I think they're great.
Yeah.
I just am petrified. I am. Because if that thing breaks, it's just a feeling. We've got many ways and backups and ways around anything that goes wrong with that trick. I think I've seen David do it 5,000 times maybe. And I don't remember if we had a complete failure ever of it.
Yeah.
I can't, there might not have been, because I can't really remember one. And that seems like something I definitely would have remembered. We've had some close calls where it's, we're on thread 4 of backup 4, backup 3, actually. That's the last one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David is great at handling the audience member that's chosen for that as well. Because, I know when
a million times.
When I was in college, or university, I was floating something at a party, and and sure, one guy went huh and missed, and then I went to stop, and because everybody was like, oh shit, there was nothing there because he missed it the first time, and I'm going to grab it, and he did it again, and then it shot, like it was like right in my hand, and it like shot across the room, and like that, someone was saying that to me the other day. They said, Copperfield never has anybody when he's doing Rose do that. And I said, well, first he always picks a female for that and not a stupid drunk guy. But I said, like, yeah, it's definitely management of your audience member, right? Like,
well, he's brilliant at that. If you watch the show, it'd be interesting to come see the show multiple times in a row and watch the show as a whole first time. And then the second time, do not pay attention to David at all.
Yeah.
Just watch every single thing that's happening around. When is a person walking on stage? Who's behind him? How many people are in this scene? How many people are, Jesus, there's 16 people on stage with David. And if you do it like that, you realize just how smart we choreograph the show. It's choreographed and it's blocked so that people are anonymous behind him. Like, let's say that here's this window is the stage, and these are the wings. David's standing here, and he starts to walk this direction, and there's a person that's going to bring something out over here. It's not going to be this. The guy's not going to step out, and then David's going to start to walk. David's going to walk. Attention goes to David in their mind, in their eyes, the whole thing, like from psychologically to visually to everything. Tension gets drawn there, and then this person comes out. Now, even if it's subtle and that person's in the dark, it doesn't matter. If you follow these rules constantly, like if David puts his hand out to have somebody put a marker in his hand, he's not going to look. He knows they're there.
Yeah.
He wants, if he's got something in his hand, he's got something in his hand. Hey, thank you very much. He does this, that person's got it, and they take it a certain way. And they take it that way every time. And they practice that with another person before they even do it with David. Because we don't want, it's not like, like we're talking about it, and I'm going to hand it to you, and then you're going to take it and give it to them, and then you're going to come in. We know when that person walks on. We know why they walk on. If they only have to do the tiniest thing, they're going to only do that tiniest thing and get the hell off. how often are their backs to the audience more than their faces? Everything is thought out. Everything. And when you watch that, you see how choreographed it is. It's like, holy cow! There's a lot going on, and it's really. So in our world, we have a hard time if someone leaves because it's hard training. It's hard. It's because it's. They're not doing hard things. They're just doing a lot of things that have to be done at the right time and the right way. Nothing's hard. Yeah. It's just we're picky, and that's real show business. Yeah. And it shows. It kind of almost goes back to my thing beginning about talking about a contest. I don't know if it was just us talking. I mentioned about the person that was trying to the dance. I don't know if it was in this or if we were talking beforehand, but if I just saw this contest a couple of days ago, and you'd see the magicians if they needed to step sideways, they wouldn't do it artistically at all. Okay, it was on the show. Okay, so that same kind of thing, we're just doing on a massive professional level, and that's why I notice it really bad. I see it more than most people, I think, because I'm trained to see it. When I watch the show, I'm my homework also. We see the show, we'll be like, this is drawing attention. When you grab this, it draws attention. When you do this, it does this. Like he does steals and some things in the show that go so unnoticed. That you almost want to stop and say, guys, do you know how great that was that I just did? I got that in my hand and nobody saw it. And nobody ever sees it. But the average magician or the average entertainer that would be doing that same thing might not do it like that. They might get caught just picking up something with their hand that's not supposed to be in their hand. Yeah. And it looks obvious. But it didn't. All it took was the blocking and the timing and the lighting to make it right. And that's what we do. And that's what makes it real professional show business versus just like, flat light white on a stage and nothing.
Now, you said that you said you had no favorite things, which I think leads us to one of our favorite things in the entire show.
Oh, yes.
I think it has to. So, I think
it's the most important question of the night.
No, not that one. Not that one. I think red. Because we gotta find out.
Okay, okay. All right. Because you said favorite, so I started thinking purple. But
I know you were thinking purple, but we can't go purple yet. We gotta go red. We gotta build up to purple. Chris, I don't know about this kid.
We're at a code red. All right.
Code red.
And that means it's that time.
It's that time.
Oh Jesus!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. It's time for 20 questions. It's time for 20 questions. Yeah, it's time for 20 questions. It's time for 20 questions. Yeah, put 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. Put 2 minutes on the clock. 2 minutes on the clock. Here we go.
All right.
Oh God.
So,
all right.
This is 20 questions. Now,
the rules
of the game are pretty simple. We're going to ask you some questions rapid fire. You have 2 minutes on the clock, and we have to see how many questions you can get through. Honestly, genuine answers. Don't lie to answer them too fast. We've had some of those.
Are you ready? We got to bring up the clock.
So I can't put it on screen for this setup, so I've got the clock here. So this is the
sounds good. All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Dream vacation destination.
Maldives.
Biggest pet peeve.
Assholes.
Biggest mistake during a performance.
Mine or David's?
I think yours. Or both. No, let's go yours. Yeah.
Mine. Thinking I was good. Thinking a trick was good and doing it too soon.
What always makes you laugh?
Step Brothers. Okay. Next.
Secret talent.
Breakdancing.
First time you ever saw a magic trick.
God, I'm not sure I know that answer. The Bowery Boys television show. Guy was doing magic card tricks on a TV show. I think that's the first time in my real good memory of it.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Invisibility.
Now, for yourself, what would be a dream performance venue if you were to go back to doing shows?
Just trying to think of the name of the venue. There was a Tiger Palace in Hamburg.
Most cherished memory.
Realizing my wife was the one, 100%. I know that sounds cheesy, but she's the fucking best in the world.
What's your favorite food?
Sushi.
Favorite movie?
I don't know. I don't think like this. It's going to be.
That's why we had to ask him.
Nice. Pulp Fiction. Okay.
Pulp Fiction, really?
Maybe, I don't know. It's not the best.
I don't see very much Tarantino behind you right now, but
it's definitely not Star Wars. Yeah. I'm not a nerd or anything. Come on.
We had that conversation before you came on tonight.
Right.
Yeah. Did the 2 minutes already run up?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Okay. I was like, oh, that's weird. He asked Pulp Fiction, or started talking about Pulp Fiction. I was like, you forgot the next question, man.
Oh no! Yeah, I was just like, the 2 minutes was up.
Okay.
So we made it through. A decent amount.
Chris, that was the lowest amount ever, Chris. I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah. He's got so much information in there. Sometimes it's
too much to think about.
They were quality answers, though. We've had some people that are like, "What's your favorite magician?" They're like, "You," and they're like, "What's your dream performance destination or whatever?" And they're like, "This show," and then they just keep giving us like bullshit answers.
Well, I can do. That's easy. You want me to be funny and answer the questions? I'll start here. Answer the questions. Ask me those questions again. I'll start making shit up.
Oh no!
Wait. No, let's do that for the last half of the questions.
Oh, okay, all right. So
okay, yeah, I can do it. Okay.
That way.
We'll start with what's your favorite movie. Go ahead.
All right. So, what's your favorite movie?
They asked the question. Showgirls.
All right. What's the worst job you ever had?
Ditch digger.
Favorite magician?
Chris Angel, of course. Obviously, has to be.
I was waiting for that.
If you won the lottery, what's the first thing you'd buy?
50 cars.
What's your most highly recommended magic product or book?
The Cheesecake Magician. Very rare. It's very rare.
Very rare.
If you could remake any movie and star in it, what would it be?
Last of Sheila.
Would you rather feel like a potato or look like a potato?
Oh, I look like a potato, so I'm good. I got that one.
If you had one wish, what would you wish for?
Not to have these fucking questions.
Hey, what's your favorite? What was your favorite toy growing up?
Any Kenner toy.
Nice, I like that.
And favorite sports team?
The Las Vegas Golden Knights.
I was going to say, that's the one that stumps most magicians, but I have seen you post about being at the Vegas Knights games. And I lived in Vegas when the Golden Knights started and tried to get seasons tickets and couldn't because I was so happy that locals bought the tickets all up, which was great to see that, because I thought, okay, tickets for the Knights are just going to be, scalpers every single day or every game. And Vegas has come around.
It's a Vegas. They love and support the Golden Knights. So it's pretty
good. It's been crazy. And
the team's great. So the team's good. We go through the, they've gotten rid of a few fan favorite players, but that's part of sports. That's part of it. That's part of the deal. But,
100%. Someone asked, "What's your favorite Star Wars character?" Since you've got all the stuff on the back wall, and I mean, we were talking about it before that like it's definitely not your favorite thing.
No,
But
it's not my favorite genre. It's just easy stuff to collect, and it looks cool, and it displays well.
yeah,
My favorite Star Wars character,
Man, he said favorite genre.
Jabba the Hutt. I don't know.
yeah,
Um,
Jabba the
I don't
Hutt.
know. I don't know. I mean, Han Solo is a great character. I think personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now we do have a
He just
new 21st question in our 20 questions. You were the first person who's gotten this added on. It's come up previous times, but in a serious sense, is there anything that you've been reading recently, or is there anything that you read that was really impactful recently?
Oh, well, I mean, recently, something that I reread recently that I read a long time ago that I've always thought was a great book, and it's called Rebel Without a Crew by Robert Rodriguez, about how he made the movie El Mariachi. And it's a lesson in having nothing and making something from it. He made a full-on movie that he basically edited with 2 3/4-inch VHS not VHS, but 3/4-inch tape players. And he ran into problems when he was filming, and he could only film for like 15 seconds before his audio wouldn't sync. So he had to cut. He got all this accolade, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, the way he edited the movie was amazing." And in all reality, it was because he had to, because he only could do it that way. So he just worked around what he could do.
Yeah.
And he just talks about how he didn't have any money, so he went to one of these places where they experiment with you on drugs. You know, like this group A takes this drug, group B takes this version of the drug, and they see who gets sick. Like, who wants to be in that lottery? And that's how he made his money. And he met the guy that was the villain, that played the villain while he was making this. It's a very interesting book, and it tells you a lot. And if you look at it from the point of view of magic or entertainment or whatever you're doing in your life, you can see that it fits. It can fit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow, that's a good
So
recommendation.
yeah, Rebel Without a Crew, Robert Rodriguez.
Rebel Without a Crew. Anything that you've been reading recently, Ryan?
I did. I got another Audible book. Let me pull this one up.
Is it the Goggins one?
No, the Goggins one I read before.
I saw you were midway through. So
Yeah.
I just finished Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, which is really great for anything in your life, but especially like entrepreneurs. It's basically about mapping out your life 3 years from now, and then implementing steps to be able to make exactly the life that you imagined and engineered a reality. Very fascinating read. That is because we have just taken on a new sponsor, and that is Audible. Yes. So this show, we'd like to thank Audible for helping us make this possible. If you guys are interested in getting free audiobooks and trying out Audible and listening to Rebel Without a Crew, which I just looked up is on there, then you can go to audibletrial.com/magic. So
boom.
audibletrial.com/magic. And then you can get whatever audiobooks you're interested in. And yeah.
The one that I actually just downloaded, I haven't started it yet, is Surrounded by Idiots. It's 4 types of human behavior and how to effectively communicate with each other in business and in life. So I just thought it was sounds very interesting. So I'm going to get started on that one. But for anybody just getting Audible, go and listen to The Third Door. The Third Door or Blue Fishing. Those are my 2 favorite Audible books. I listen to them a couple times a year because they're just so freaking good. So make sure to hit those up.
Yeah, we've had a lot of really great book recommendations on a lot of these episodes, and we were hoping that we would be able to partner with Audible in the future, and we're really happy and excited to announce that, yeah, now you can get free audiobooks on us, and we don't get any money if you pay money for Audible. It has nothing to do, but sign up for the free trial and check out the books. So moving on from that, we had so many questions that came in while we were doing the 20 questions, so I'd like to catch up a little bit on that. Oh, Stephen Brundage is in the house. Thanks so much, Stephen, for
Stephen Brundage, whoop whoop! I just saw Stephen last night.
I was gonna say Steve gave me a call today, and he was like, "I just saw Kenner."
I cannot definitely 100% can't talk about the stories we were talking about. Oh my God. Oh,
I've had some of those calls with Steve. I definitely know.
Oh God, that was so fucking much fun. Last night was a blast.
Speaking of books, DS wants to know if you had any future plans to author another book again. He said, seeing as Totally Out of Control was so popular.
You know, I don't know. I don't know. I did that masterclass thing, which was really pain. Just because it was time wise. I just didn't have it's
Time-wise.
energy. It was energy.
Yeah.
It was real. It was fun to do, actually. It was kind of fun, and I went over some old stuff, some new stuff. I've got a ton of new things that I work on, and I've got some of them are like sleight of hand / theory / so I got plenty to say, but yeah, I don't know. It's time, it's effort. Like, it would definitely be doing it because I wanted to. It wouldn't have anything to do with money, because there's no, I don't know what I would make from it, but yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, but I'd love to, but I just don't have the time right now. In my current situation, the time, I want to spend my time with my wife, my daughter, and playing with what I want to play with, you know, magic wise. You know, I still do try to come up with stuff constantly. Like here, you had Franco on last week, right? Or last time?
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
So Franco, he's one of my favorite people in the world. I love this guy. He can do everything. You know, he does cardistry stuff. His magic is flawless. He's a smart thinker. He's a smart performer. He's smart. I just can't say enough nice about this guy. But he's a guy I like to talk to because we bounce ideas off, and he sees the smart part of what you should talk to him about. And I try to see the smart part of what he does too. When he'll tell me something, I go, oh, that's not just good. It's like diabolical.
Yeah.
And like I showed him some stuff that I think is the best stuff I've come up with in my whole life. The smartest move I ever did. And when I talk to people about it, it's one of these things that it's easy to teach. People can do it immediately, but it takes years to do it correctly. And Franco put the time in, and he just runs with it and has great shit with it. It's all the reverse spread stuff that I do. And you know, I would say 10 years ago, I just said, I'm going to learn everything into my other hand. And I should have done that day one, because it just nuked a quarter of the moves you would ever want to do. You never have to worry about how to control a card again, no matter where you want it to go. There's easy and smart and very deceiving things to do with it. And Franco understood that instantly. And boom, next thing you know, he's just doing it, you know, because obviously he's a sponge. He learns just quickly, and he's super talented. And then he's also smart. So not only does he learn that, like the basic principle of it, and he's the kind of person that Franco's the kind of person, and he does it to me. If I ask him, hey, I heard you do this, just can you send it to me? He'll send me the clip with a 20-second instructions on something that, you know, some people might lecture on for a half hour, but you get it. I can do that to Franco. I can just show, here's this thing, and here's the method. And, you know, then he's got some better thing with it later, but you know, that's who he is. And Franco's just, I couldn't say enough good about Franco, but that's the kind of guy I like. You know, my favorite kind of magician, when you ask who's my favorite magician, is that kind of person, because there's not a lot of them, but I can't just go, Franco's my favorite, or, you know, Ava Yap's my favorite, or this guy's my favorite, but they all have that similar thing though. All of them have that similar. Nick DeFott, you know, I have a trick that I tried to teach as a coin trick that I've taught to people before, and to really explain the nuance of it. I mean, it's a 25-minute conversation at minimum to go through it, someone to remember it. I explained it in 2 minutes with my iPhone, and then 2 days later, he's sending me back a clip of him doing it, like just from that 2-minute instruction. And he really got it. Like he got all things I didn't say about timing or how to hide something. He understood it because it was the only natural way to do it. So those are the people that those are my favorite kind of people.
Yeah. And you'd hope that if you were to put out a book, that those would be a lot of the people that are reading it and making sure to put the time in to really absorb your work and do it properly. But you can only hope.
And what's funny is when I did the All Things Magic thing, not All Things Magic thing, the Vanishing Ink thing, the whatever it was,
the master class,
master class. I taught a trick I thought I was never going to teach because I just wanted to do it myself and never teach it. And it's one of the things I thought, this is one of the best things I've thought of in a long time. It's an actual trick from start to finish routine. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I'm just going to teach it. So I taught it. And it's the thing that I think most people looked at and got out of it, because it's not a super difficult trick. And it's obvious. It's a very strong trick. And then also I put in there something that I played with just as an idea that I've always loved. And the trick is super self-working and very old idea method-wise. And I think some magicians seeing it, if they didn't like the presentation, would just go, well, that's just that, or that's nothing. And I've always loved, I wanted to do a trick where I combined the two most boring things in the world, card magic and quantum mechanics. So I had this whole thing about Schrodinger's cat and a card trick, and I've always wanted to do it. And I've tried. I had a real complicated, not complicated, it wasn't complicated at all, but it was a difficult trick.
Yeah.
3 selections, and it was a speech about Schrodinger's cat before it. And then I finally came up with something with the cards and a box. And it's uber simple, and it's almost self-working. But in the process of doing the trick of this old idea, that's kind of obvious in a way and not in another, I added a bunch of subtleties to the performance that made it stronger and tried to take it away from what it was, tried to take it away from the method. So if somebody knew the method, they would go, wait a minute, but that kind of doesn't make sense if they thought about it. So I don't know, but I did that that was a hard process for me to go through to try to teach that. But I got so much like that for another book if I did do one, but doing it, oof, hard times.
I mean, you're late though, because Xavier says he has a trick just like that as well. So
that bastard Xavier. Xavier's another one of those. He's another one of those guys that's great because I occasionally what's good about Xavier for me is I remember one time, I know not that long ago, somewhere during the pandemic, I'm like, send me something hard I can play with. Because he definitely does hard.
That's not something to ask. Yeah,
let's play on that statement.
Send me something hard to play with, Chris. Is not something that you should send people.
Don't use that as like the clip.
Yeah, I think that's going to
send me something hard.
Making that the promo for this episode. We're just
100%, 100%. Chris,
we just got to know that Xavier came through.
Hard to play with.
Xavier came through with something hard to play with over the. So he would send me this. He sent me some links, and then we would just. What's good is I can also grasp things quickly, conceptually and method wise. He would just film something and send me it, minute version of some cool thing. Yeah, it's so funny. Clip saved. So he would send me something cool and to play with. But I love Xavier from the minute I met him because he's goofy and he's funny and he's damn, he's got some chops, bastard.
Yeah, he's an asshole. We hate him.
Oh, totally.
We hate him, but love him.
Of course.
So, question for you. Talking about assholes, I'm sure you get asked all the time, probably more than anybody on earth. Hey, Chris, can I get tickets to David's show? I mean, you probably get asked more than anybody on earth, I would think, for free tickets.
Yeah.
Or hey, can I get backstage to see David after the show? Or take me to the museum? Or I'm sure you get asked everything. Send me free hard stuff to play with.
Exactly. So yes, the answer to that is, boy, do I get that. And a lot. And it was just a magic convention in town, and you get them over times 20 at a magic convention. Now,
Yeah.
magicians sometimes, not always, sometimes magicians are very entitled to that. They almost feel like it's not them asking, it's them telling me when am I going to get my free tickets, what show can I come to? Because I've got that. The question comes out like that sometimes. Though I get the question, here's how it goes. Are you doing shows Thursday? Now that's not the question. The question is, can I have free ticket Thursday?
Yeah.
There's a thing called Google. Like they didn't need to ask you if it was a show.
And I say that back. I say, I'm pretty sure you can look that up online. The answer is yes. And I hope that is a subtle, buy your own fucking tickets answer. But and this is a really hard thing for me because there are times when somebody might call me and say you have some tickets for tonight, and I've got holds that dropped out, and I've got some tickets that the circumstance could be to where I did, and I could, and honestly, if I can, I will, depending on how they've asked. And then the other way that question comes is are you doing shows? The other one is, hey, I'm trying to buy some tickets for tonight. They're all sold out. And then I'm like, well, they're not sold out.
They're not sold out. Yeah.
So I start that with, because now my answer back is usually I act concerned. Oh my God, that can't be possible. Where have you looked? Because I need to double check to make sure that they have their tickets on. I turn it into a problem that I need to go solve. Yeah. And then, I Ticketmaster. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm on Ticketmaster and there are tickets.
Yeah.
And then the other one is, hey, I don't want comps. I don't want comps. Can you just help me get good seats? So how many? Oh, what's 6 of us? Okay. I give them the box office number and I always check. More than likely they bought 2.
Yeah.
So they were really asking me for 6. But they had bought 2. So the big question I get that's the most annoying is that can they go to the museum, David's museum? Because that's a doozy. Because before we even get to can they go to the museum, how the tour works is this. We only do them at night. So here's what has to happen for the tour to work. Before we even talk about whether or not I can get them in one. The only time we really do the tours, and I'm talking the amount of times I can count in the past 20 years on this hand that we've done them during the day. We just don't do them during the day. You have to be very, very famous or important. I think we did one for Tim Cook recently because he just couldn't come after the show at night. He was in town. He wanted to see the museum. It's Tim Cook. Of course, we're going to do it. So, and we did one for Barry Diller. Those are the last 2. Barry Diller is extremely famous, wealthy guy in the Killer Dillers. Look him up. You realize how influential he is in Hollywood. So we did those guys today. Again, super famous guys and super important guys. And they couldn't change their schedule to fit what we would do. So, but 99.99% of the times they're at night after the show around 11:30. So what has to happen is David has to do 2 shows. And then he's always part of the tour. There's no such thing as a walkthrough of the museum. You can't just go there and walk through it. We turn the lights on and you go look at it. There's no such thing as putting the lights in tour mode and walking through. There's no such thing as, can I see the posters? None of that exists. David wants every person to witness it like it's a show because it is a show. It takes about 2 hours. There's some tricks in the museum. The tour is just great. And we talk about history. David and I tag team to tell stories. He does some stuff. Then I walk through and I go through some of the rooms and tell stories about each of the performers or some of the merchandise, the stuff that's in the elbow part of the rooms. And it takes about 8 employees, all on overtime. And the key here is this. Neither me or David are making a cent from doing this, and we're using our time in the middle of the night. That's the hardest part, because the 2 of us have to agree to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not a toy, so he can't just say, you know, hey Chris, you're doing that. We're doing a warehouse tour tomorrow night. You were going to, I don't care. You know, he's very respectful. You know,
Yeah.
he's like, hey, let's do a tour. Now, if it was somebody important, and he said, hey, I really want to do this tour on this night, and it's a night I would normally go in, I'm going to do it because it's an important person, and I respect David, and I respect the process. So with that said, it's difficult to get into the tour. Now, on top of all that stuff, just getting the connect, I mean, be able to do it, it's only 8 people. We try to max it out at 8 people. Anytime we go over 8 people, it gets too congested, too crowded, too much. Anytime it's more people linger and look away and they're not paying attention. And it just, we can manage that group. It's like people management and audience management. That's it. We've managed this and figured out that's our sweet spot.
Yeah.
If we have 4 people, if they're not very interested, because the tour's fun and it's funny and it's got jokes, it's got tricks, it's got stuff in it. So we need more people to perform for at the same time that we can't have too many. So that's where we got it at 8. So all that has to gel to have a tour. And this past week, there's a magic convention in town. And we had planned one tour for a big group, not a big group, but I mean 8 people, but they were fairly important from the SAM, the Society of American Magicians. And we had to cancel it because David had COVID. So we just couldn't do the tour. And then unfortunately for them, which I don't think they really understood in the long run, we couldn't just put them in another day because we weren't going to give our time those other days. They were out of they were done. They were already off limits. I wasn't doing them. There's no way that I wanted to go do a tour at midnight for a bunch of older magicians I did not know very well versus go hang out with my friends at the magic convention.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's me, my personal time, you know?
For sure.
So David respects that. David's great. So he respects me for that and he understands. So we just didn't do it. I ended up all the guys from All Things Magic, Luke Dancing, his dudes, they all came. Bernardo, Avi, Robert Moreland, trying to think who else, Frankie, a lot of the guys from the thing, they came to the show and they sat up front, got tickets. And while they were at the show, I said to David, I said, hey, can I do a quick little tour? And I never ask him this. Like I literally never, right before a 9:30 show.
Yeah.
Say, hey, can I do a quick tour for these guys? Just, you know, I'll do the real thing, but you don't have to go if you don't want. Because he just got over COVID, so I kind of didn't want to. But he's like, no, I'll go. That'll be fun.
Nice.
So he went and we just did, you know, I did my normal thing and I kind of, you know, it was a rare event to me to do it like that. And it was fun because I knew them all. I wanted to do it. And then we went from there, we went and hung out and had dinner. And I got home at 5 a.m. and it was at the MGM at 9. That's another story. So again, the tour is a big thing. It's an event for us.
Yeah.
And we just can't do them. It's not like, hey, I'm in town. You guys doing a tour? Can I get in the museum? What does it take to get in the museum? And unfortunately, I've had people get very pissed off at me because I say no, because we can't do it. I mean, mad, like legit mad. It's frustrating, very frustrating.
Which is just kind of flabbergasting because why would anyone feel entitled to a tour? You know, that is your private time over time.
Tell me. You tell me. I can't figure it out.
Like, I
Chris,
think
are you saying you don't want to be out till 5 o'clock in the morning every day?
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't mind to be out at 5
Come
o'clock
on,
with
man.
my friends doing that. That's kind of fun. Oh, hey, Blaze, were you? I don't know. I'm bringing up a question for me. Were you at the? Let's see. I won't say who it was. Unless we explain how deep we get into this, because if you remember, a Zoom show. Were you on this?
Yes, I was at a Zoom show that you were in the audience with.
Yeah, you were at Shin's house, I think, right?
Was also in the audience.
Yeah, you were at Shin's house.
Yeah, I was at Shin's house. For that one.
Was somebody? I think Colin was Colin there.
Colin was there. Yes, he was.
Somebody from your group kept sending me pictures of me, screenshots of me. I don't remember
That's
if it was
amazing.
you or Shin or.
Yeah.
But
I think it was
looked
Colin.
so
I think it was Colin.
fucking
Yeah.
bored.
Oh my god. Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what show, and it was outrageously boring. And there were some other people. Yeah. There were some. Yeah, we didn't. You didn't say whose show it was just now, right?
No, I didn't say the show. No.
Good. Okay. Yeah, because I remember that show, and I do remember we all at the same time we were muted, and we all. I don't remember who said it, but then we were like, "Look at Kenner, look at Kenner." We just look at you, and you're just like, "Okay."
And somebody screen grabbed, probably be Colin because that's Colin's sense
I
of
think it
humor.
was Colin. Yeah.
So I get this screen grab and I'm like, I just start laughing. I'm like, oh my god, this is so representative of my opinion right now.
Yeah, it was so funny, and and there were a couple other people. Neil was in the audience for that one as well, and we were.
Oh yeah,
messaging
Neil Patrick
afterwards.
Harris was in the audience.
We had the same thought, and we were like, "Did you see Kenner's face?" But it was interesting because you know how before a Zoom show they always put up the disclaimer of like make sure that you're close to your camera, that you're in frame, everyone can see your face, so that I can call on you and stuff. And I remember David being just we were all like scooched in, and all of us that were huddling in frame to make sure that we followed the instructions. And then David's like a mile out of frame. He's like,
yeah, David's
part in the background. He's like in the biggest, like the most reclined position possible, like in a dark movie theater. And there were like a bunch of people around him, but it was like you couldn't see him at all. He was just hidden. But yeah, that was a fun time. Not necessarily because of the show, but because of the aftermath of the show.
Oh,
everything. We were
yeah, my god.
the DMs to each other.
And it was like a who's who of fucking people in that show. It was kind of funny. It was very funny.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I couldn't watch another Zoom show from that day on. I couldn't watch another one.
Wow, just destroyed the whole experience.
Oh. Whew.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna have to find out whose show this was after the show. After the show. That's hilarious.
Oh my God. That was so disappointing. But yeah, it was a fun time just texting each other the entire time. It was like,
yeah.
oh, this is just a who's who of Magic, and we're just all DMing the whole time instead of paying attention.
It was the peanut gallery was hysterical. It was just hysterical.
It was great. But yeah, I think that was Colin that was screenshotting you. Do you remember when did Ben Seidman send you that picture when we were working on a show together, and I think we were at Foxwoods or something, and then Ben was like, "Oh my God, we should take a selfie with this guy," and we were
the guy that looked like me.
Yeah,
he did. I bet I have it right here.
Well, if we go all the way back to the start of the night as well, one of the comments that came in, which I'm sure you get all the time. Let me see if I can find it. It came in from the one and only Pig Cake.
I don't think it came in from Pig Cake. It was somebody who's a Pig Cake fan.
Oh yeah, okay. There it goes. Hi, Chris. Been a big fan since the Roseanne days.
Right? Yeah, I get that. Tom
all
Arnold.
the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, okay, we were on, I don't know, some talk show, Conan, Tonight Show, something, and Tom Arnold was on the show. And I'm talking to David, and somebody had a little fucking headset on a clipboard, like she was cast to be in this part for a movie. You know what I mean? It definitely looked like we were being filmed for some sitcom. She walks up, Mr. Copperfield, your room is dressing room 12AB, and your name's on the front door. Mr. Arnold, you're one room down and across the hall. You can be there. There's all sorts of condiment. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And David is just like howling. Because it's like I'm like,
yeah.
So I've been all the versions of Tom, fat Tom, thin Tom, you know. Oh, here it is.
So we got to bring on Tom
Oh,
Arnold
and Blaze,
next time.
you look in your hair in this picture is just the best. I don't know if this.
Oh, it's probably
this
probably pretty wacky. Oh, let me bring this. Let me scoot you on over so you can.
Oh, look at that short
That's
dude.
Rabbi Chris Kenner.
Look at that.
And he's even got
That
it's
is
even
awesome.
this, it's the but
He's even got-
mine's not long.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was so funny when Ben was like, "Psst, Blaze,
God, is my hair that thin?
it's Rabbi Chris Kenner." we need to take a selfie right now.
Yeah, when he said it to me, I was just like, I started dying. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I. And now you look at it, you go, I don't look like that. And then I really started to look at him like, maybe I do.
It's like when you had one of those like the Facetune apps or whatever where you age yourself. It is just like
kind of look like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny?
It's funny.
You say that. It's nice of you to say that, but I'm going to bet money that guy's younger than I am.
That's because you're killing.
I wouldn't get it.
You've got the fountain of youth.
He's Gucci all over the place.
The amount of time you spend hanging out with aliens is giving you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going to be 60
fountain of
this
youth
year.
somewhere.
Wow! Congratulations.
I'll be 60. I'm old.
And still partying harder than any young guy that I've met. So,
well, I don't know that
Did the parties go too hard? Is that why they haven't? They're probably not coming back, or I don't know. Maybe are they? I don't know. But I've heard the parties went too hard. I don't know that I'm going to do another.
Well, okay. Well, 1 year it went nuts, and then I learned. It was like this. It was sort of a secret, and I had 150 people come over. 150, which is a good amount, but people in your house. But at the same time, my house could handle 150, no problem. So then 1 year, maybe 200 people came. But then the stories were this: everybody who was big part of the convention came, and then David would come and hang out. So this 1 year, it was like David was here, and Matt Franco had just opened, and Matt stayed. Matt was great. He just stayed the whole night. Like he was almost the last person to leave. Cyril wasn't at the convention, but Cyril came, and Cyril always stays to the end. And Rico and Lisa make him help clean. It's really comical. Last party, Cyril was like, "Do we have to stay and clean?" So everybody who's anybody that's at the convention is going to come, and David calls it he laughs. He goes, "You've got the Vanity Fair party of magic. It's like insane."
Yeah.
He loves it. He's like, everybody's good. People come up to him, and I usually weed out the people, and I say, "You need to see this guy. You see this guy. See that guy." And then there are other people that David respects that say, "Oh my God, you need to see this guy." So he sits around, and people do magic for him a lot of magic. And he sees great stuff that he might. I think you saw one thing that we bought, never did it, but bought. And, it's just a great event. 1 year, because I count them every year. I have a person count at the door. 450 people came. 400.
That's insane.
It was bad. I went through 800 waters. And I don't know how much.
Nuts.
And you have to understand, these parties cost me about $5,000-6,000 because it's a lot of, I cater them.
Yeah, you're doing all the food
alcohol,
and drinks. Yeah,
there's drinks, there's drinks, there's water. Just water is not cheap. And so then after that year, I'm like, I said to myself, I'm never doing this again. Then the time came, and I'm like, and someone that's got. Oh, you're not doing your party. Oh my God. It's like, and when Stan calls me up and says, "What night are you going to do your party? Can you do it on Tuesday? Because if you do it, it messes with my thing. We'll work around your party." If he really is literally like, is kind of becoming part of the convention, like a cool part. The thing is, so I did. I was, I love Stan, so I'm going to do whatever he wanted. So I started having them on Tuesdays, and then I give out wristbands, and I had invitations. So you got an invitation and a wristband. So the invitation very strictly said, "Here's your invitation plus one, and here are your 2 wristbands." So I gave out 100 of those, which was 200 people, and I would invite and put them on a list, whoever my friends were that would just call me the last minute. So I wouldn't do 300 invites and then add another 50. So I tried to keep it at 300, and it worked. I mean, there were people would just find out where my, they were Xerox copy the thing. I say Xerox copy.
Yeah, Xerox.
Yeah.
Xerox
They sent
copy,
it
and
over
then they
carrier
faxed it.
pigeon. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
fax it through.
to the carrier pigeon
Just,
company.
can you
flew
just
it.
page me the address and I'll
Yeah. Yeah, page me. So then people would come and see a guy at the door, and then not wristbands, and they'd leave. So it worked, and that was a good thing. And I tried to keep a good variety. I used to always invite people. Like I gave, I'll probably say his name wrong. I say Paul Robia, but I think it's something
Paul
else.
Rabaya? Yeah.
Yeah. I always say Robia. So Paul Rabaya. So I love Paul. I love him. He's great. So I know he's got his thumb on the pulse of all these kids and all these cardistry guys and all these good magicians, because he's in both worlds. He's like Franco. And I know everybody loves Paul. And I just give Paul, here's 20 wristbands. So he becomes 20 of the 200.
Mm-hmm.
You pick the people. I don't care who they are. Here's 20, and here's a bunch of invitations. So I
remember when I ran into you at the I think the last time that you did the party, I ran into you, and you were like, "Oh, I'm out of wristbands. Go see Paul."
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I literally was out of wristbands, and Paul is like, he really gets it. He knows I like him. He knows who's good, and he knows that I like it when, like, people that don't have a chance to come, and then he knows that the people that he knows who I know too, like you, he knows. Oh yeah, fuck yeah. And it's me. I'm like, I don't. Yeah, but it's Paul.
Yeah. No,
those
I mean,
parties,
they do get pretty crazy. I mean, I've been there very early in the morning, but I got the same thing that X got a couple times, because X says, your wife wouldn't let me clean. She straight up ripped the bag out of my hand and yelled at me to have fun, which I know happens. I've had some talks with your wife and said to her, like, hey, just, here, let me put the bottles over here and stuff, because like, I always appreciate what you do, because I know that you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart for everybody and out of your own pocket, because I don't see too many people bringing in alcohol and stuff. They're just like, oh, coolers are over there, grills on over here. And it's crazy, like, how many people just like, okay, yeah, just toss this here. Oh, here's an empty a ledge, toss this here. And it's like, this is somebody's house that they've opened up to you to have a good time with your friends. Like, just respect that. But I'm sure you've had that before, where people do stupid shit in your house, which this isn't cool either.
Yeah, it's most all my magic stuff is in a closet. It's a hidden closet behind a poster that you have to know it's there, and it's not like a obvious hidden poster. So because it's an 8 sheet, so it's a huge poster, and to know it's there, you wouldn't think that would open. You wouldn't think that's on a huge hinge and would open. So I come downstairs and I see that's cracked open, and I walk in there, and there's because it's a 5 foot deep thing that's 18 feet long. So it's 5 foot deep and 18 feet long. And it's just all magic books and just magic. And then there's one little section of like extra camera equipment, because I've got my real stuff upstairs in another hidden place. And I've had to kick people out of there just rooting through my stuff. And in there, there's some personal stuff. It's nothing personal, but it's just shit I don't want people going through.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. It's just weird. Oh my God, what's that?
That's just so inconsiderate and invasive, and just like socially inept to be invited to somebody's house at a party and go, instead of hanging out with the party, I'm going to go root through his closet and try and find stuff. Like, what?
Now, if they were to root through your closet, they would just find a shit ton of shoes. Am I right? Do you still have all the shoes?
Upstairs.
Yeah, because I remember I probably have, when I came to the show,
300 pair of shoes.
Yeah, when I came to the show one time with Shane, actually, we came and we chatted with you.
He's been in my house many times.
We hung out with you after the show, and we were chatting because at that time, if I remember correctly, that was when you were like in the walk mode. So like the show would start, you'd be there for the start of the show, and then you would walk
Exactly.
around the strip and do like this whole loop, and then get back for the end of the show. But I remember us talking,
Yep.
you were like, "Oh yeah, I've got like, this many thousands of dollars in shoes and stuff." It's just crazy.
Oh,
was
I don't
like,
even want the
okay.
math is. I don't want to. I can't do the math. It's scary.
Yeah.
Because
What kind of shoes are these? Like Jordans? What, or like they're leather shoes?
I've some.
What kind of
I'm not a
shoes?
big Jordan fan. I have sneakers, but a lot of my. What am I wearing right now? I'm wearing. Oh my. Well, the ones I'm wearing now are Lanvin. I don't know if you know that company. It's French company. It's an older couture house than Louis Vuitton. Everything from I got tons of Gucci shoes, like a lot of Balenciaga shoes. I'm on a Balenciaga phase right now, so I have a lot of Balenciaga, like their sock shoes, sneakers.
Yeah.
And all my dress shoes are Tom Ford, and they're all name brands. It's kind of snobby and snooty. I know it sounds horrible to sit here and I've got these, and I've got this, but it's all usually designer shit.
Yeah. No, just you said Tom Ford, and it just brought back a PTSD memory of me walking by the bathroom at your house and seeing a very well-known magician who I won't name run in there and grab your Tom Ford cologne and start spraying a bunch on himself. And I was just like, what is going on?
Well, so it's interesting. It's funny because I happen to have, and I don't have it in there in the bathroom displayed anymore. Because I kind of switched to a company called Byredo as my favorite fragrances. But I used to have a lot of Tom Ford. When I say a lot, I had every one of their fragrances. And after I had bought them over time, and you have to understand, I have a lot of outerwear from Tom Ford, like coats, jackets, jean jackets, whatever, to suits, sports coats. Entry level suit there is not cheap. It's like $5,000 for just your entry level suit. So they gave me the display. So I have the wooden display that they use in their store.
Nice.
In my bathroom. I used to. I don't anymore, but I still have it. And I had them all displayed like they have in the store. So that's funny that you say that, because that would definitely been.
I remember seeing your display because I'm really into fragrances as well, and I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. And then I walked away and didn't start spraying them on myself like a maniac who's invading your privacy.
It was actually Blaze. I saw him, Chris. He was spraying every one, different spots of his body. It was really weird.
Yeah, but I did any fragrance at any armpit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I had, the other thing is this is another invasive house stories. I have in that closet. So you've seen that closet upstairs where everything's a touch. It looks like a sitting room, but everything is it's a beautiful dark wooden thing. If you touch it, it pops open and everything's in there. I don't like clutter, so I don't like to see. I don't like cables. I don't like clutter, so I kind of have to hide all that. So in the closet. So a friend of mine, a magician buddy of mine, I still have them. I don't wear them. I used to buy a lot of watches. I loved watches. I had a watch thing. Once the Apple Watch came out, done. I don't even care.
Yeah.
I'd rather know how many steps I took, and this is better than anything. I use it all the time. It's great. So they just sort of sit there. So I like just like going in and people in my closet. I go upstairs and someone has got the doors open, and they've opened the drawer that has the watches in it. They're all on winders, and they're like looking at them, and somebody picked one out, and I'm like, "Good Lord, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
and
what are you doing?
I looked and it's like, I'm like, okay, because it's somebody that I knew that I've shown them many times, and they love watches themselves. And they wanted to show the person. It had an okay story. I would have said okay to if the guy asked me. And I think he texted me too and said, "Do you mind if I go show, Jimmy John the watch, your whatever watch it was?" And I would have said yes, no problem. But at the same time, it was just interesting to walk up and then I saw, and then I realized who it was. I'm like, oh yeah, just do it, just close it. Because no one else would know they were there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There's a lot of
even regardless of how close you are with the person, I feel like it would be much more normal to go up to you and be like, "Hey, could you tell them the story about your watches instead of me?"
Yeah, yeah.
through your house.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe common sense isn't so common.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Not in the magic community, apparently.
No.
Yeah, I just
I feel
posted
like
on
we're
Twitter.
gearing up to something. We're hearing a lot about your favorites right now.
Yeah.
Watches,
I mean,
favorite
favorite
fragrances,
watches. But
brands.
I think it might be up that time. Chris, I don't know
It's
if you're ready for it, but it's that time.
Oh God.
It's coming whether we want it or not. It happens out of our
It doesn't
control, but
just
eventually it
happens.
flies in, and it's gonna.
Lasagna! Lasagna! What's your favorite genre of lasagna? Meat. Lasagna. Veggie. Lasagna. Plain. Lasagna. Saucy. Lasagna. What's your favorite genre of lasagna? Keller. Lasagna. Cheesy. Lasagna.
He let it go a little bit longer
Let it go
today.
a little bit longer today. It
so-
goes so much longer than that, by the way.
Oh
I
God.
have to gauge what level of discomfort I'm willing to expose our guest to at any given time.
I just figured you'd appreciate it.
It goes so
yeah.
much longer than that. So, Chris, what is your favorite genre of lasagna?
Well, it would have to be anything cheesy. I just like cheese, so anything cheesy. I don't have it. I can't eat lasagna anymore. I'm diabetic, so that the whatchamacallit,
I remember you
the
just
noodle.
found that out like last year, right?
I found that out
Or-
like in October. No,
Yeah.
Wow.
it was coming though. But I would say cheesy. I mean, I love lasagna.
Mm.
Extra cheesy. I love anything with melty cheese. Any pasta with cheese. It's like I'll take that cheesy pasta with cheese. Oh, you can put some pasta in there if you want.
Yeah.
You know, give me a plate of
Yeah.
cheese. A plate of
Give me some
melted cheese with
Parmesan on top
spaghetti
of
sauce.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll get some
yeah,
mac
yeah.
and cheese. Hold the mac.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
think you have the double mac and cheese where it's the double cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheese. It has to be cheesy. That's it. Any pasta that's Italian-y has to be cheesy.
Nice.
100%.
Now, we'd say
I'm
that
the cheesy
cheese is
genre.
kind of like the binding agent, you know? It's
Binding
kind of the
agent,
thing,
yeah.
like glue. Now, let's say that you were to bake one cheesy lasagna. And Ryan, what would the next step be?
You got to bake an identical second cheesy lasagna. And then you take second cheesy lasagna and place it atop of the first cheesy lasagna, because you got to. Do you have one lasagna or two?
You have one.
One. He's a one guy.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Which is
That tells us a lot about you, Chris.
If you combine any two things into one, it becomes one.
Ah.
Interesting. Well, I mean,
Yeah, that logic work with everything else? I guess so.
yeah. Well,
Two things into one. Well, yeah, once you stack
Here,
them,
let's
I
put it
guess
this
they
way. If I blended you up in a blender, and then I blended Blaze up in a blender, so you're liquid, and I poured you guys together, are you one drink or two?
oh,
No, we are one drink.
wait, that would be one drink. But
I'm not sure I would
So
drink it.
lasagna smoothies are the next, next
but
frontier.
yeah,
Now, we have our lasagna mathematics merch that just came out. So you are
Oh my
absolutely
God.
right. We're happy that you answered one instead of two. 1 + 1 does equal 1 in lasagna math. So yeah,
I
we're,
agree.
we're on the same
I
page.
agree.
yeah. But Chris, if you have one deck of cards and you place another deck of cards on top, one deck or two,
One.
well, just one giant deck with duplicate cards.
Well, the only way to separate it.
World
into
is
two packs to
crazy.
Take it back apart. The only way. Here, what are you going to do with it? What's the question? Is it? Are you a lasagna? You're putting it together to eat,
To eat. That's true.
right?
That's true.
If you're just putting it together to look at and then take it apart to prove the point, that's not a scientific
All right.
experiment.
All right.
So if
fair
you take
enough,
one
fair
deck
enough.
of
You might
cards,
have
put
me.
it on top of the other, and now you shuffle them together to do a trick or play a game, you got one deck.
Mm.
Okay, let's do this. You have one piece of bacon. You place another piece of bacon on top. It's got to be to eat. It's got to be two pieces of bacon.
Because they can't go
Can't be
together.
one
They
piece of
won't- They
bacon.
won't meld
Can't go
themselves
to-
together.
can't go
The
together.
same thing with people. If you stood on top of Blaze, you're two people.
But if we jump in a blender together,
if I blend you, so that's where the bacon question is this. So the bacon question is this: if I take the bacon and I break it up into bacon bits, and I break the other one up into bacon bits, put them together, it's one item.
One item. If a lasagna falls in a blender, does it make a sound?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. We just want to.
I've not put anyone in a blender.
No. He has no experience in this whatsoever.
None. I don't have.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So
such a great out of context Chris Kenner compilation of him just going, "Give me something hard I can play with," and then he goes, "If I put you two in a blender right now."
I've never put anyone in a blender though.
I've never. Just a disclaimer: I've never put anybody in a blender before. In case you were wondering. Amazing. So we've got.
Is this exactly what you thought this was going to be? Are these all the answers that you expected from me?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah, no, the lasagna thing is a tried and true segment. We just have to derail the interview at the exact same time every single episode.
Yeah. Now, Chris, let me ask you this, because I know when we're asking the 20 questions, you brought this up, and we said biggest mistake ever on stage. And you said, are you talking about me or David? So, I mean, you've obviously seen majority of the shows. So let's say, what's David's biggest mistake ever on stage?
Well, there's a difference between mistake and things bad happening.
Yeah.
Because a mistake would be he made the mistake, but then also a mistake could be that someone else made a mistake, which caused a problem. Or it could be the answer of, like, we had a bad thing. I'll give you a bad example of a bad thing that happened. That I don't know about mistake, but in a way you could say it was the mistake of the girls. Now we have mostly magicians here, so I have to expose mentally a trick by talking about it. But we did this trick called vertical sawing. So where David cut a girl in half vertically, and it was a solid blade, a stiff, solid, giant blade, taller than David. That we show the blade first. The big prop that they're going to get in, like this contraption, is behind them. And the trick works with twin girls. Ooh,
what?
I've told you a secret. So, or not. Maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, maybe it's not. It's mirrors. It's mirrors.
No, it's mirrors. No, it's just one girl in a blender. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do blender girl.
1 cup of 2 assholes would be what happened if you blended us, by the way. Thanks,
so we're doing. David gets. This happens to be in Daytona Beach, Florida, on New Year's Day, 1990 something, and David asked. The only way he can get on top of the prop to lower the blade down is he grabs onto a circus performer ring, loop, like the soft loop that you put on a key, like in a keyhole, and you grab it. Now you're holding on something soft that can grab your wrist and lift you up.
Yep.
So it can lift you up by one hand. They use it in show business all the time. So now David, the blade comes in, David grabs this, it lifts him up. We roll the prop forward and we lower him on there with the blade that is rigid. And so it's a rigid item that's center stage, like that, big, taller than him, and he's standing right next to it. Prop gets in there. The 2 girls get in. Or the girl actually,
the girl.
A single girl enter. 1 girl leaves.
2 girls.
Right,
yeah. They just blend one every night.
The girl gets in. Now, here's what you need to know. It's New Year's Day, so New Year's Eve they went out drinking, and then they went to Taco Bell. So one of the girls was very sick. So this second, the instant that David lowers the blade down to cut them in half, the audience sees this. The audience sees this. They hear this girl's violently vomiting on the blade, which is now dripping down off the blade onto the prop that David's looking down through the hole in, and the audience does not realize that this isn't part of the trick. They just assume, oh my God, they're really cutting her in half. This is terrible.
Yeah.
So David looks down, and it's like a parabolic chain reaction. He's like, "Oh God, this is gross!"
Oh, no.
And he's about to throw up, but he doesn't. He's looking away, and then David's reaction turns into hysterical laughter. So now we're in a really fucked up spot, because we can't. It's upstage or downstage, so we can't just open the thing up and let everyone out. And David's on top, and this blade is locking the whole thing right where it is, so it can't move. So the only thing is, now the audience sees this girl's still throwing up and still making sounds, and the audience sees his blade come back out with just goo running down the blade. David's on the other side of it now, because he's like, oh. So it gets pulled out. We can push the prop back, and David would normally be attached to the blade, which now has vomit on it, so he's not going to do that. So we push it back, we get the girls out, and then we get a roll ladder out, we get him down, and then David runs back out. And you can still hear the audience is this very dumbfounded. They're like, "Wait, was that a trick? Did they kill her? Did they kill her?"
Yeah,
she did. That girl did. And yeah, she did. She did, right?
Yeah.
She did. So David's like, she thinks really smart. He goes, "You know what, guys? She's perfectly fine." So the girl that didn't get sick runs out.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
I mean, and also
That's
I love
awesome.
that, like, from the audience's perspective, they've just watched this guy saw this girl in half. She explodes and is like making gurgling sounds, and then he's just maniacally laughing at her,
Yeah.
like some
Big time.
mad scientist. Like, oh my God.
Oh,
Another thing that happened was David has he's a great laugh. So when he gets and he's not afraid to have fun, you know, he's not afraid to see something and laugh at it, which is good, because a lot of people, they're jaded. He's not jaded. He's just, if he goes to a movie and it's funny, man, he laughs. So we were in Germany, and one of the guys that would come up to, like, you know, pound on the box or something, we would give him a name to use every day, different name, which I was just trying to fuck with David. So his English wasn't very good, so I told him to say his name was Jerry. So he comes on stage, and David says, "What's your name?" Joey, Chewy. And he can't say it. Can't say Jerry. He's saying Cherry.
yeah.
And David keeps saying, "What?" And then it became funny to him. And not kind of funny. I don't know what it was, but he actually was laughing so hard. His tears are coming out of his eyes. This guy has no idea why he's laughing. The audience is just like, and he's on the ground, laying down, hitting the floor, just maniacally fucking laughing. And it was, you can't make it up. You can't make it up.
That's funny.
Crazy. Now, this is we're talking about stuff that happens during the show, and like how to take advantage of events or something that happened. So we were I can't remember the year, early 90s, maybe. You could look it up easily, because the Montreal Canadiens played the Los Angeles Kings in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So the Canadiens are gigantic hockey fans. So we're playing Montreal, and they just won the night before. And we did the trick shooter. So in the shooter, David shoots at he's got a gun, and he gets a girl on stage, and he's got he has a card selected, and he's, the whole trick where he shoots at the box. The flowers fly out, the table leg falls off. And one of the times she shoots, and I always thought, because we did this, I said, "Hey, this would be great if we did this." And of course I said it once, and then it was in the show. And I used to do it every once in a while. I'd be the person that did it, because it's hard on your knees. So we would switch people up. So he shoots it, the girl shoots, and then this person in the wing falls to their knees and then falls down on the ground. And David goes, because he says, "That was my favorite vase." And then he says, "That was my favorite flower." And then that one, he goes, "Oh, that was my favorite stagehand." And then somebody comes out and drags him off. So
Yeah.
Montreal, they won. I don't tell David this. I don't tell him we're going to do it, because he might have said no, because he's not a sports fan, would not even care, wouldn't know why Stanley Cup was important to this town. No. So I get a Los Angeles Kings jersey, and I put it on. And I get the guy who's going to pull me out a Montreal Canadiens jersey.
Nice.
So, gunshot. I don't just fall in the wing. I stagger out like dying with this LA Kings jersey and fall to the ground. And when I say 2 minutes, it's probably 5 minutes of just, they are nuts. They're going nuts. And I told the other guy that walked out, said, don't just walk out. I'm going to tap the floor. That's when you come out. Because I would understand. I understood timing. I understood don't cut the lap off. So I waited till the right amount of time for the right timing. I tapped it, and then he walks out and drags me off. And they're on their feet. They're howling. They're screaming. I've never seen a reaction like this in my life. It actually made the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
But it just goes to show you that, it's like you can take that one moment that it's going to repeat. It's never going to repeat. Never going to be able to duplicate it. We can't force it to happen. You can't, plant a a Stanley Cup victory in every town. You just, it's just an event. You just took the risk and it worked. And that's, that was one of my most memorable events from the show ever.
That's amazing.
Because, wow, did it work? And the other time, and again, this is another time that I did not tell David.
Dr. No just does whatever he wants.
No, he doesn't. But I do. So Homer, and this is based on a gag we used to do at Illusions, when we worked at Illusions. We're at Caesar's Palace, and we used to do, when we do the bucket trick with the duck bucket.
The duck bucket, yeah.
We have to talk to the person before the show that holds the bucket. The reason we have to is because we have to make sure they can hold it. You can't, if you just picked a random person and we had them do it, which you can, but it's very risky because the bucket's heavy. They have to hold it for a while. They do a little slow motion thing, which we can cue them to do, and they don't. You can do it, instant cue them to do it. Say, walk back to your seat in slow motion. All that works as a methods, but it's easier, at certain times to just, you've got a person. It's just a funny bit. It's got nothing to do. It's not like a secret that it's not to somebody that we know. So Homer was there. This very early. Homer didn't work for us at the time. But David knew Homer, and he was coming out and doing some artwork and hanging out. We were in Vegas. So Homer was going to be the duck guy. So David says, and I told Homer, let's do our gag that we used to do at Illusions. I'll tell David, it'll be great. So Homer thinks David knows, which he didn't. And David doesn't know that what Homer's going to do. So I'm an asshole. So David goes, "What's your name?" Now, Homer, he looks at David and he goes, "Loud," because Homer also understands he wanted people to hear it. He goes, "Bapakau," and David goes, "Excuse me," and starts laughing, and he goes, again he screams, "Bapakau," and he goes, "Let me see your driver's license." I didn't expect this part. So, and then Homer's like, Homer's nervous, thought he wasn't going to pick him, was afraid to do it because Homer was really kind of like apprehensive. So Homer pulls out his driver's license, and David's fucking great. He didn't know this was coming. He takes the driver's license. He goes, "Holy shit!" And then like, "Oh, no, wait. I missed it. I got it wrong." He doesn't say that. He says, "Oh my God," and he goes, "What?" And then Homer goes, "That's the English pronunciation." He's like, "What? What's your real name?" "Homer." Or what? What? He makes it look at, "Oh shit!" And just huge laugh. It was just, and we tried to recreate it, but we couldn't really get it to be as funny as the first time we did it. But man, that was risky on my part to just have him come out there, because David doesn't love surprises, and I don't blame him. He doesn't like. it's not the kind of guy I can play practical jokes on during the show very often.
But yeah.
But, you know, occasionally the guys will be like, "Hey, we should do this to David." I'm like, no.
Yeah.
If we do some sort of practical joke, I have to be like, you know, I'm the instigator, or someone's dead if it goes bad.
Yeah. They don't have a job tomorrow. Chris, you're secure. You're all right.
Oh my
That's
god!
awesome.
Yeah, the
Would you
Homer
say
thing
he's
is so
pretty,
funny.
like, is he constantly looking to try new things out and experiment? Like, you know, how often are you guys swapping things out in the show and just trying something new?
Well, we don't swap things out as much as we used to, because we used to do a television special every year. So it was constantly developing for that TV show. So now it's more of a, oh my gosh, it's more. Well, a lot of little things that they're not seen, like in Blue and in the spaceship, and a lot of those things, we tweak them because they become tweakable, and we're always trying to make things more practical and smarter. So we're always tweaking little things that people don't necessarily see. But we're now working on like changing the opening. We've got a new big piece that we want, a big, giant, cool thing we're going to try to put in the show. So, you know,
Nice.
we used to go from a lot to, we really focused on the alien, and that for like, I would say 4 years of focus on that. It took a long time. That was a very long trick. That was the hardest trick to come up with from start to finish, with the whole mechanical thing, the whole building of the alien and the spaceship and all that. Just was a huge project. And the fact that it looks as good as it does and works out is pretty impressive. You know, it's an impressive piece of show business, 22-minute piece of show business.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good chunk of the show. I was going to say it's about 20 minutes of the show, so that's a lot of work into that, right?
Yeah,
and there's multiple illusions happening in that. I don't want to say too much from the show, but like there's illusions happening. It's not just like story based. It's like illusion, and making that fit into the story is tough as well. So.
And you mentioned earlier about not compromising on a vision, and that being something that really sets David apart, is that he's so committed to his original vision and willing to keep working at it continually, having more iterations until you get closer and closer to it. How close would you say the version of Blue and the alien story that's in the show now, how would you say that juxtaposes to the initial time when you guys first started talking about, hey, we should put aliens in the show, and what the vision was in the head, in your head?
It's very close, except it's very, very close, except for one part. The thing that we compromised on was and we built it, and we tried, and we really tried. And we occasionally talk about maybe fiddling again, is that the spaceship production, which looks great, feels great. We tried to make it more of a magic trick than it is. David really wanted it to feel like it was a full-on magic trick, where instead of a piece of theater, because some people see it as it's theatrical, and some people see it as it appeared. So the real goal was first to make it appear like here's a closed-off area that it couldn't possibly be in, and we have a method. We have the stuff. It's built there. It's hanging there. We use it every night with the TVs going up and down. That was going to be the barrier for it, and we were having a hard time with it. So we eventually decided, we sort of talked about it and said, look, we don't like compromises. We don't at all. But we've got this, $650,000 item that we can't produce, sitting there, hanging there in the back. Let's produce it. Let's just try it. Let's just get it out there. You don't care if we just fly it around in front of people and never even produce it. Just say, here, oh my God, look, there's his spaceship, and it flies around. It's just so cool. Just to see if people even thought it was interesting. So then the first night we did it very similar to the way we still do it. And it works. So we knew it worked. And then we realized and again, it might not have been a compromise, because the producing it might have distracted from the theatrics of it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So if I was doing a play, whatever, non-magic play, but if I decided to put a magic trick in the middle of each thing just because I wanted to pigeonhole a trick into it. It might take away from the actual theatrical part of what made that play good. So this is definitely a story and story driven. So yeah, it's just, it really works the way it works, way it is right now. And I'm glad it is the way it is. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
X says, who came up with the hand symbol for the alien?
Oh, David, actually, 100%.
Nice. Yeah. And then here's one question.
Double that.
Double that. Yeah. The triangle. Going to stuff in the show, I know, like there's the dinosaur, right? Crazy trick. Now, I heard from someone this years ago that David saw Lost World and just was like, I need a dinosaur. And then that just became a thing. And they were like, we got to make a dinosaur appear. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't see that, but.
Let me know what drugs that guy was on.
Yeah, I will.
Whoever told you that, 1,000,000% has no idea what he's talking about.
That sounds good.
That story. Whoever told him that story. No.
Yeah.
No.
Nice.
No. I know exactly I know the birth that idea. I was standing there when it was like, I want to produce something like that.
Yeah.
Was it
nice.
Yeah. I'm not. It was at a Halloween show for haunted houses, and they had the head of a dinosaur that would pop out and appear. It was the head and the neck, and it was on a track. And the doors would pop open, and the head would move around and would come back, and then next people would come by. So when he saw that, the reaction of the people just from the dinosaur initially. He's like, oh my God, I want that's visceral. It looks like it's going to be great. And then we just went crazy and did it. And, we, and that was a big process to get made too. And that's a very big problem.
Oh, yeah.
That's a very big
no doubt.
It's way bigger than you think. Like it's big because it's on the stage, but at the same time, when you're standing next to it and you have to get it through doorways, and it's big. So that's a big undertaking, that trick. And that was also a much longer idea. It wasn't just the whole thing with Frank. That became out of necessity because we couldn't get the other part of that trick to work as well as we wanted. So and sometimes here, this is the thing about David too. Let's say he has a vision to make something, we'll know that, okay, the vision of the dinosaur appearing is going to happen no matter what, the idea. But the idea leading up to that, let's say that was the big ending for the cups and balls. His cup and ball routine wanted to be different. Mm-hmm. He wanted that to be a different, very memorable thing. And that's where instead of compromising and making it just okay, because we had it okay, he was like, nope, I don't want to do it at all, that part. We're going to do this other thing. We rethink it. And David's very smart at that. So that's what we did. Yeah.
What is that process like? Is it, when you talk about David, when he first delivers his vision to you for something new that he'd like to try, is that like, wakes up at 3 a.m., just had a dream and gives you a call, and then you guys,
it could be that. It could be anything. It could be anything. We were when we first did Snow, and we decided to do it around the audience and not use paper on stage and not produce paper as Snow. We decided to use the Snow machine stuff to make it work. We were on our way to Arizona, to Phoenix, to perform, and it was on a university. And David literally was like, we had a discussion right before we decided to go. We're on the bus, and the bus is the kind of thing where you can't sleep necessarily. Sometimes I have a hard time when it's moving. So I never slept much on the road. And David and I were talking. We're sitting up in the front lounge, and I had this idea. I said, hey, why don't we try this? And it's an okay idea. But it spawned an idea for David. He didn't hit him until like 4 in the morning. You know, so 4 in the morning, I'm like, I'm being woken up. So we're up there talking about it, and he's like, we both understood, okay, this is going to work. This has got to work because it's such a cool idea. And I'm calling it. We landed. The buses got there at like 7, and David's like, at 7 a.m. on the nose, we have to wake up and deal with this immediately. I want to try it. Even if we try it outside, even if we're making it snow in Arizona in the summer outside. So I'm like, okay. So I wake up, and as soon as I know we stopped, so I know we're there. So okay, I wait till the guys start getting up, and I call Renee, the guy that's packs the trucks and sets up the pack. I said, hey, where did the X prop come out? I needed a certain prop. I said, when does that come out of the truck? He's always on the second truck, but it's close in the back, so it's pretty easy, accessible. So can you do that first? You don't have to unload the whole truck, but this is a big, we have a big good load in here. So can you just yank that off the truck and play with it in the parking lot? So they did that. They took it out. I woke David up, and he's wide awake. I mean, wide awake. Oh, let's do it. So we played with it, and that moment we're like, okay. And up until that point, we couldn't think of anything that looked good. Like, there's all the stuff that's out there, you know.
Yeah.
All this stuff is out there. There's all this shit out there. There's, you know, there's some great Japanese load things that hold so much snow-based paper that you can steal from a hanging thing, or, you know, with a black art tube of paper that shoots it down into your hand. You know, we had thought of all sorts of crazy shit. Nothing looked good, nothing worked, nothing felt right, just nothing. And we went from, I mean, we were going to do a TV show with this trick, and we knew it. And we were on a deadline. And it's frustrating when you can't think of anything. So you sit up all day trying to, like, we got to come up with this idea. At the same time, we're trying to fix this prop over here, work on this thing over here. So it was a big deal. But yeah, that thing right there, that was a very cool story, because that was it. We solved it. Right then. From that moment forward, it was week later in the show. We went from, it's never going to make it. We're not going to get the show. We're only going to have this. We've got this great ending for this trick. The ending was just great with the kid, and we all that figured out. We just didn't have the snow part figured. And then we did. And, you know, it's like, you know, you don't see it till you see it, and then you see it. You know, that's how it was, that one.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy. Now, is there, I guess I can't say, are you guys working on anything? Like, I know you said it before that you're always tweaking things and you're working on little things here and there, but is there anything, I know, and you said the start is changing, but, like, you know, obviously the alien and stuff is a big section of the show now. Is there any other story-based things that are coming into the show where you're like,
it's being built right now. We got this new thing. We built a big, gigantic prototype. It's a big item. And it's a totally different method. It's a method for an old effect, new method, and scary method. When we first talked about it, I was like, I don't even know if this is safe. And it worked. I was very apprehensive about this one. It wasn't a Dr. No thing. It was this sounds like this is crazy that this is going to work. And then
two girls, one blade.
Mock up. It was 2 girls, 1 blade. Yeah. It's 3 girls, 1 blade. It was just, you always love those.
Yeah, that's great. It's Russian roulette then.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's coming, and it's a multi-phase thing. So there'll be more to it than just one thing. And then it's going to be a big thing. It's big, you know, because David thinks big. And I mean, big is, you know, we think in the show, away from the show, at the show, how's, you know, perception from the world. So it's and it's good. I'm excited, actually.
Nice.
How often are you guys having, like, you know, creative team meeting powwows, you know, amongst, like, you, Homer, and David?
Well, we have, I don't have they're all the time, because David is, stream of conscience. You know, he is squirrel. You know, he's like, if something gets into his attention span to think about, we talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm at the Magic Convention yesterday. At the Magic Convention yesterday, and something happened at the museum tour with All Things Magic guys were there, and something I really didn't notice. I mean, I noticed it obviously because it was a very obvious thing, but I didn't think this is something we would add to the tour or would make it. And it's not even a big thing at the point of, but it's still an important thing because it gave it texture, and the texture that it didn't have, and it happened by sort of accident. And David, I'm at the convention. I've been about off and on the phone with him, and it's 2:30 in the morning or so, and my phone rings. He literally hung up, and I was talking to David Grasso, and I set my phone in the bar. I always set it face up so I can see it. If it rings, because it's on silent, so I'll see it light up. So I was like, it rings again. I'm like, whatever he wants now, because we just literally just finished that, solved whatever was an issue with the show, not nothing to do with the creativity. So I picked the phone up and he goes, "Oh my God, do you want to hear a creative idea? Are you ready? You ready? Ready right now? Is this a good time?" I'm like, loud. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, I don't care. So I'm like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna walk away." So I walk away and he's like, "Why don't we? This thing happened. Do you remember that?" Yep. And he says, "How can we make it happen every time? We can do it every time. Because if it happens every time, it felt so good when it happened. It sounded good. It felt good. The whole thing about it made the ambiance of the room something else." And he said, "It's got to be part of the tour now." So we're going to make that particular thing a part of the tour. We're just trying to figure out exactly how to do it, but it'll work. And that's the way he is. Again, the tour's great. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
It doesn't need this. It doesn't have to have this. But let's take the thing that's great and make it just the tiniest bit greater.
Yeah.
And that's who he is. It's how he thinks. It's really great.
Well, I mean, they always say that, right?
He's a breeze to work for in that respect, because you're always doing something different. I'm doing business stuff, and that takes my day, and then I got it. That's creative in a way, because business is a creative industry also. So you have to. We think different than a lot of other businesses. So, like a lot of other theatrical shows, we're a little bit different with the way we deal with the shows, the casinos, the people, even down to the ushers. We think different. So it's always something. And then to be able to do that, and then next thing you know, we're talking about something creative, it takes the monotony of anything that's monotonous away. So it's a good deal.
That's great.
Nice. Well, I mean, we do have to do one review tonight, which, Chris, you said you hate this, any thread work stuff.
No, I don't like, no. You have to, I don't want to
Not that you hate it, but you don't want to do it.
When I see them done well, they're fucking great. But I don't want to do them.
Yeah.
If the thing breaks, no.
Yeah. No, it is a nightmare.
What are we reviewing?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting because David is featured in the trailer for this product because he did a sit-down discussion with Joao Miranda, and it is about the gravity reel, and it's incredible. So have you seen the gravity reel, Chris?
Which thing is that? We have so much of Joao stuff. I don't know if I've seen it or not. I'm sure I have.
It's got a double motor in it, so you can pull things one way and another way, and like set it up so you can be super far away from it. It's an electric thread reel. Or a motorized thread reel. That's absolutely insane. So,
and all that stuff is great until the thread breaks.
Yeah,
it's my review. Here, I don't have to see it. I got my review right now. Here's my review. Here's my quote for the review. You can put this on. Joao can use it on his advertising. Fucking awesome till it breaks. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's
That's
literally
it.
like the first thing he addresses in the tutorials. Like, you are going to break the thread. It is going to happen many times while you are practicing this, and then you're going to not break it. And so then he goes through a really great instructional. I was actually really blown away going through everything to review it. There's so many effects,
Yeah,
and
it's like 5 hours.
what I love about it is like it is made to be done both either close up, and there are so many close up effects that are included, or at extreme distances where you're just in the total opposite side of the room. And what I love about that is it's taking effects like, for example, like Haunted Deck, where you would use a loop or something and you're really close up and making the cards move to get to the card. Instead, it's like you place the deck down on the other side of the room, you walk away, and then now this card, the deck cuts itself, the card jumps out, and then slides across the room to under your foot, and then levitates up into your hand. And it's like just a beautiful, elegant sequence to make it much more strong. So,
I mean, I love that, but why not use a ghost?
yeah,
Ghost.
yeah. I mean, well, after you murder that twin, you've got a ghost and a live one. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have. I've got a bunch of blender ghosts over here.
That's it.
It's like the Will It Blend series.
That's it.
Oh my!
Will It Blend? But it's just an assistant. We were blending a twin.
This is going to be
crazy.
This is the weirdest podcast you guys have probably done. All these guys that they're like, who's this fucking guy?
Oh, we love the weird. We go deep.
Yeah. So what we set out to do with this podcast is most Magic podcasts you get on, I'm sure they ask you, we try to rip through the 20 questions as quickly as we can, but they're like, so Chris, where did you start in Magic? What was your first inspiration? What was the first trick you have? Chris, if you could recommend 3 tricks, what would they be? And we find that freaking boring. We're like, that's boring shit that anybody could, everybody's got a different answer, but it's always the same shit and stuff. And so we were like, we want to know who people are, who the performers are, people that we look up to behind the scenes, so now everybody knows that you have like 300 pairs of shoes and stuff, but that's something that's fascinating to you. And that's what we love, is to see people away from the stage or away from their role and who they are as a person, and not so much, who they are on stage and stuff like that. So,
absolutely.
So
the actual person behind the curtain, outside of just the Magic theory. We do love going deep on theory, and we've definitely in this discussion had some actual talks about specific method and creative process. But then we usually like to bring things off the rails pretty quickly after that.
Like lasagna.
Which is good.
Yeah. That has lasagna have to do with a Magic talk. But it's the greatest part of our show. We love it. So we have Magic Live.
Has anyone else said to blend you two together and put you in the same bowl?
No, we haven't.
That is a first.
That was literally some really good logic. I mean,
might actually become a T-shirt, Chris.
See, the thing is that the reason that we ask that question, I mean, one, because it just totally derails things, but also we get to find out how cool our guest is, in that they roll with it. And the fact that you had something that actually is a great way to think about it is, if I blend the two of you together, does that make you still 2 separate people or one smooth? I think that's good logic.
Right.
Like, we asked Takumi the question, and
Takumi had a great answer.
Takumi had a great answer, and the thing is, it was funny because he, before the show, was really self-conscious, and he was like, oh, my English isn't the best. And then he came on and he blew our minds with his lasagna logic, because he was like, did I bake the 2 lasagnas and did I stack them, or did somebody else do it for me? Because if I saw it, then my intention impacts whether or not it's 1 or 2 lasagnas. And we were like, whoa, that's getting really deep and metaphysical.
It's all of a sudden crazy lasagna talk.
Lasagna question.
Now Chris is thinking about it. Now he's thinking.
I am thinking, because it's basically Schrodinger's cat. Like, lasagna is both dead and alive at the same time. It's like it's the same situation.
Just like that twin from the show.
I'm going to be dealing with this lasagna thing in my head. I'm going to have a trick based on the 2 lasagna, 1 lasagna. It's like the one ahead lasagna principle.
Exactly. Now, Chris, at Magic Live, we're going to do the podcast live at Magic Live, and we want to do like a lasagna eating contest or like something like that. Now you don't eat lasagna anymore, but maybe we could find something that you could eat. But would you at least be a judge for us in it?
For sure. For sure.
All right, we're locking them in.
Amazing. So we didn't wrap up our review on this gravity reel. I honestly would say 9.5 or 10 out of 10. This is just the best levitation device that I've seen.
Well,
it is
Zhao, you don't have to even say much. Zhao's stuff is great.
Yeah, everything that he makes is really quality. I've got a couple of his products, and customer service is also fantastic. If you ever have an issue, like he's on it like that. So, yeah, highly, highly, highly recommended. The crazy thing is, if you're one of our patrons at the $10 tier, you get 10% off of it, and we've got it on our store now. And if you're at the $25 tier, you get 20% off, which it's a pretty expensive trick. So you are already making like months of your subscription back if you get it. So
yeah, exactly. So you're literally making money back if you get the gravity reel, which is now available on allaccessmagic.com. You can go to the shop, and it's the first thing right there, gravity reel right here. And we have special promo codes. If you're a patron, you get a 10% off at the $10 tier, and if you're at the $25 tier, then you get 20% off, which means that you're saving $70 on this product for paying $25. So
yeah,
we think it's a
It's
no-brainer if you're interested.
Yeah,
in
he's
the
got
best
something.
levitation device on the market.
He's got something new. I don't think it's out yet.
Chris is the behind the scenes
great.
scoop.
Yeah, well, he shows us the stuff before. Just now take it back. There's two things, and one is a holy shit, that's possible kind of thing.
Yeah,
really legit. It's like,
nice.
wait a second, you can make that. You can that. Does that really work? And yes. And then the other thing is just ridiculously practical. The other one is, it's not that the other one's not practical. The other one's a utility for effects, and the other one is it's just something that you can, a secret device that's very, very, very well made, and you can, everyone will believe it. I'll use that with it. I'll do that. Oh, that's, my God, I can. That's the greatest. So
Nice.
Zhao's great. He thinks great. He's smart. I love talking to him because his voice is so great.
That's it.
He's got a great voice.
We call him
I think
JWoww. We call him JWoww.
JWoww. That's a
JWoww.
like from Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's I think what's so cool with Zhao is like his whole range of what he creates. There are some things that are just some of the most complex electronic devices in Magic that are coming out from him that are, heavy technology, and then there are other things that are just practical methods that aren't technology at all, but are just really well made.
Yeah, like the little box, the little crystal box.
Yeah, the Vision Box.
card.
Yeah, I have it over here.
Vision Box 2 is like, whoa, that's a great tiny little thing that makes it that much better.
Yeah, it makes it
Blaze,
huge.
Blaze is going to grab it.
Vision Box literally right here.
Yeah, everybody should have this. I've got the yeah.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's just
that's a given box. Everybody should have that. If you don't have that and you're watching this, it's not expensive, and it's a really clever, really good thing.
Yeah, I've been using it actually more often in virtual shows than in regular performances, but it's great in all contexts because you could have that totally examined. I mean, that's kind of amazing with the purity of the Vision Boxes, that you could look at it, you're not going to find anything. Even though
now you're in New York, you're in New York.
Yeah.
This is your place in New York. It's like it's a gazillion-dollar house.
This is not my place in New York. No, this is my friend's place that I'm staying at. I just had a gig today. So, yeah.
Because I'm looking at it going, okay, so that's New York. So not that. You just walk 80 feet across the room, which is like 3 apartments in New York.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The fact that there's even space in New York City means that it's got to be.
I'm like those light fixtures are like ridiculous. This is okay. This is great.
Yeah, man. He's got a pretty nice spot.
Oh yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Dope.
I remember I said that when I was at your house for a party one time. I was talking to Aussie actually, and I said it's like, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something. I said, Aussie, I'm gonna head back to the hotel. And I go, got to get up, start making money in the morning because I had sales coming in. I think I had my booth that year at Live doing all the card clips and stuff. And I said, got to get a house like this one day. And he goes, no, you want a house like this in New York City. He goes, then you're set. He goes, you're broke.
Oh,
because he goes,
yeah,
it would just
I couldn't
be
afford
stupid.
this house.
You couldn't.
I couldn't.
No,
No,
no one could. Like, it's just, well, not no one, but it's like, yeah, real estate there is
yeah, I don't even
insane.
want to think what the house this house would cost me. Oh.
Yeah, just the property, to have actually property in New York.
Yeah,
is
right.
It's impossible. So
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, we were.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
I
when
was
we were
wondering. I was like, what are we gonna have to talk about for how many? Because I saw that your other ones were like hours. I'm like, oh my god, hope I'm not
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah, Chris said to me, he goes, how long do these usually run? I said, well, sometimes an hour and a half. I said the Edisons came on for 4 hours and 15 minutes. And then we talked to them for 3.5 hours afterwards. And it was like,
God.
we went to bed at 5 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. And we were just like, well, I was dead. And I think I had to get up at 8 the next morning. So I was like,
and the thing is that we kind of abandoned Tessa because she wanted to keep talking.
Yeah.
She went downstairs to grab some cereal because she saw that I was eating cereal while we were still chatting at 5 a.m. She went to go grab some cereal and we are like, oh, I guess she left. And we signed
we're
off.
like, all right, peace. We get a message like 5 minutes later, like, where the hell did you guys go? I just went to grab cereal.
We're like, hey, Tessa, it's 5:30 a.m. We're trying to sleep.
Oh my god! But at some point, I actually need to run to the MGM. So at some point,
definitely.
I have to go fairly soon.
You are a crazy busy man, and we appreciate your time.
Really appreciate.
We don't have to cut it off right this minute, but I said some in the next 10, 15 minutes. I gotta
right now.
All right, bye.
Yeah.
I'm just scrolling back up through some of the other questions that we had earlier. What is this? X said, is Kenner drinking skim water? Wait, what?
Does he have the light blue container of water?
Just water.
Just water.
Right.
It's diet water.
It's Will Smith's kids' company.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
And I just like these are biodegradable. Yeah. You can throw these away. They're not plastic, so that's why I use it. I buy these.
Now, something we didn't touch on, you mentioned it when you talked about Franco and about Rabaya, is you're interested in cardistry. And it's so interesting that you now are known to a lot of people when they meet you in the Magic community as like Copperfield's right-hand man. But there are so many things that you've put out into the community that have been incredibly influential. Like Sybil ended up kickstarting kind of like the whole cardistry movement. What was cardistry like when you were creating Sybil when you were starting out, when it wasn't exactly a community the way it is now?
I don't want to take credit for that at all, but the community, because it's all these kids and they did it themselves, and whatever they got out of Sybil is great. But Sybil, to me, what it was I was doing a bit and I needed a joke, so I had a cut, and in the joke, I did this cut, and then in the whatever it was, and I was doing it was really not good. I would never do it now, actually. So I do a cut and tell a joke about the cut, and then this is the Michigan. Michigan. I just really punny, not my thing now. So I was trying to find a cut fit this joke because I had one, but the cut wasn't good enough for the joke, and the joke was. I do the cut and I say, I call this and at the time, I think it was the Dan Quayle cut, who was vice president at the time. So I would do this. And I say, this is the Dan Quayle cut. Looks busy, doesn't do a damn thing. That's it. That's why I came up with it. It's got nothing to do with trying to be fancy. It's got nothing to do with trying to start anything. I wanted to tell a joke, and that's it. And then I published it. And that's it. I know I wasn't trying anything, and I've always liked fun, fancy one-hand cuts. I've always liked to do, when you're flipping cards. I just always loved that kind of stuff. So that was it. It was never. I've never been like super fancy. I'm kind of like, if you were to say describe style of sleight of hand, I'd say I would do natural sleight of hand, because I sit and shuffle and deal cards into piles, and I try to do things where they don't look like moves. I try to take the move out. I don't mind fancy. I don't mind if you do fancy. If you look like you can handle cards and you look like, I don't mind that. I think it's great. and I do fiddle with these kids stuff. I fiddle with it all the time. I'm always playing with these moves if they're within my ability to learn, because this stuff's hard and I don't have that kind of energy or time. But it wasn't an idea to do that, you know. When three fly was just a thought of, I wanted to do the best coins across I could do that was from here to here to here. And a card magician, Brother John Hammond, is the first guy to tell me to not do coin tricks like this, you know. He said, hold them up, let everybody see them, you know. So he was with all these coin vanishes, and 3 coin vanishes I did in the 80s, early 80s, came from Brother John Hammond beat me into saying, you know, but when I was a kid, classic palm was the shit. That was it. You know, there wasn't this, people weren't palming coins here.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brother John was like, you know, you make, to me, he says, you make the finger palm look more natural than most people can. So you should mix and match those 2 moves and he just really had some great ideas and thought, and he would be, no, that's not natural, because Brother John was the kind of person that when he wanted things to really be natural, and that showed through in his card magic. And he had the worst audience. He had the worst audience in the fucking world. He had polio. He's in a wheelchair, and he's a high school teacher. So he couldn't go out to try his tricks at the bar or anywhere. He's he's performing for high school kids that he knows. Now, what makes that harder is now they know you, so they have no problem talking to you in the middle of your thing. If you do a trick for somebody that knows you, you have them pick a card, they're more likely than the average person you have pick a card to say, can I shuffle those? Because they know you. They're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
They're being a tiny bit of a dick, but they're not doing it to be a dick because they can just talk to you. So with high school kids, they're all assholes. So his card management and people management was unbelievable, because he understood how to tame the wild beast of the high school students when he would do his card tricks for him. And it's great. Watching him manage them was unbelievable. And it wasn't like they were doing it out of respect for the fact that he was their teacher, because you know how it is with your teachers when you're in high school. You know them.
Yeah.
You know them. And you have no problem going, you know, hey, Mr. Johnson, can you do that again? You know, it was really great to watch him do that stuff to the kids. And then when he did it for magicians, it was like taking candy from a baby, because he'd already done it for the most difficult audience on the planet.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's incredible.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, I have a couple questions to ask you, but I'm going to ask you off camera. So about super hard tricks, but no, from Xavier. But you have been absolutely incredible tonight. And I mean, I just want to thank you for the time. I know we got a couple people that said, thank you for your time, and that, you know, you have been absolutely amazing. And
awesome.
I mean, we can't wait to be at live and to, you know, #1 judge for the lasagna eating contest.
Oh, I'm gonna talk to my quantum mechanics buddies about this lasagna thing too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna have
physicists. I'm gonna ask this question to physicists.
Yeah.
You don't know. You have no idea. You've put me into this, you know, whole quantum mechanics bag of lasagna.
All right, Chris, what size T-shirt are you, man? We're gonna bring you a lasagna T-shirt for sure.
Oh, I'll buy one. I don't care. Large.
Large. All right, you got it.
We'll make sure to get you a lasagna T-shirt. Maybe mention it to David. We'll see if he's got any lasagna visions.
Yeah.
See if he's got
no longer a spaceship. It's a lasagna floating above the audience.
That's what he's like. Oh, that was the missing link. That's
what
we were looking for.
My God.
We're looking forward to the.
How do we get them to stop talking about the lasagna? Let's just buy the rights.
I want the
rights.
That's it. We closed down the podcast. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, no, we're looking forward to your physicists bringing back their thesis. And thank you again so much for all of your time, for all of your great insight when it comes to magic or all of putting up with our silliness. But it's been a blast.
Oh, no problem.
And, so
if you guys get
for watching this episode. What were we gonna say?
Yeah, if you guys ever do repeat guests in the next 5 years or so, let me know. I'll come back because it was super fun.
Yeah,
Now I totally know
Absolutely.
what to expect.
Hope we don't need to wait 5 years, but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, well,
We'd
whatever.
love
It could
to have
be,
you on.
yeah, it's super fun. You guys are
4.5.
best, so.
4.5. No, it's like, just don't call me next week.
Almost 3 hours on the nose. This is perfect.
3 hours on the nose.
Yeah.
Look at
This is
that.
a perfect place to
I
end
still
it.
make it to the show, but I'm going to run to the show because I still make it there before the show ends. I got to talk to David about something. So
Nice.
Oh, that's
Lasagna,
amazing.
of course.
Yeah. See,
yeah.
just constantly busy. Yeah, I hope that your sleep schedule is all right with the fact that it seems like you're working all day and all night, whether it's logistical and or the creative end.
Yeah.
But
it's always
that's
something.
why-
It never ends. Never ends.
Yeah.
But
If it ended, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great. It's a good thing. Yeah, you guys are all awesome, and again, thank you so much for being awesome hosts. Jesus, you guys were great.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much
you
for
guys
being
for tuning in. We're back next week. If you're part of our Patreon, you'll get the weekly patter, the extra episodes. So make sure to sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/allaccessmagic.
And we are now available on all audio streaming platforms. So as of this is the first week where we're announcing it. We are now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and we're now, if you're interested in getting some audiobooks like the books we mentioned earlier, you can check out audibletrial.com/magic. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.